Exactement. Parce que vous,
Exactly, because you live as Europeans. You eat all alone at home. But who do you talk to? We don't want that. For us, it's like being stranded in a desert. No, what I'm saying is we're not rich, but we have the dignity of being rich. That's real wealth.
That's Assignment. I'm Carolyn Lombole. The producer is John Murphy.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Magandang umaga, good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 97.9 FM in Brandon and Carberry, and 990 on the AM dial in Gimli. Lots to come on the program here. We'll tell you all about it. First, though, let's head to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk, and Heather Wells joining us now. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's war against wildfires has spread to Garden Hill First Nation. That community on Island Lake in the northeast part of the province is now dealing with a pair of new human-caused fires. As well, the town of Snow Lake has now issued a mandatory evacuation order. People there have to be out by noon today. And as Northern Fire evacuees arrive in Brandon, advocates there warn of increased risks of sexual exploitation. Geraldine Gruzik at the Empowerment Project at Mama Wichita Center says displaced people, along with young people aging out of care, women and Indigenous people are all top targets for traffickers. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells joining us from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Abby Adiemi is on the controls today. Leif Larson is our studio director. And hello to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Brad Lillies is our streaming producer today. Heather was talking about forest fires and evacuees. Well, because of those fires, we now have air quality warnings in effect for Thompson, expanded ones there. And as well, severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for Poplar River. We're expecting essentially a hot and humid day today here in Winnipeg, expecting sunny conditions early this morning, and then a mixture of sun and cloud. A risk of a thunderstorm late today with a high of 32 degrees, but with a humidex, it'll feel closer to 39. We'll give you a full look at your forecast. But in terms of what's coming up on the show, you heard about this on your CBC Winnipeg News. Why Hollywood loves to name drop Winnipeg and why we love hearing them do it. That conversation coming up at 7:15 today. In our last half hour of the program, summer is in full swing with many beach days ahead, but the rising rates of skin cancer in Canada and fewer people using sunscreen, we wanted to hear from Winnipeggers about what they think. Stay tuned for that conversation coming up here on Information Radio after World Report.
Today on Q.
Finn Wolfhard became a star at 12 for his role in Stranger Things.
How can I hate you? I don't even know you.
Now, as the show wraps, he's diving into something new and completely his own, his first solo album. We caught up with Finn in Vancouver to talk about music, creativity, and how Stranger Things changed everything.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Ontario Provincial Police have charged a teenager in connection with an attack on a child. An 8-year-old girl had been missing for hours last month. She was found with life-threatening injuries. It happened in the rural community of Quadville, west of Ottawa. As Nicole Williams reports, police initially had a different explanation.
For the last 2 weeks, police have told the community that they suspected this little girl had been attacked by an animal after she had gone missing after a day of playing with friends. Now they have charged a teenage male, 17 years old, with attempted murder and sexual assault using a weapon on a person under 16 years old. This is a very shocking turn of events because police have only ever focused their investigation on an animal attack. But that did include forensic testing. And the results of that now show there was no animal DNA to be found in the little girl's wounds. For the last 2 weeks, a lot of people have been living in fear because police have actively warned people to keep their children inside or under close watch. And there's been lots of questions about why they need to do that because there's been no information on what kind of animal this could have been. It looks like they will get some answers at a town hall on Saturday when that's hosted by Ontario Provincial Police. And we do have an update on the little girl. A community member was able to see her, says she's doing extremely well. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
European and business leaders are meeting in Rome to talk about Ukraine. The Ukraine Recovery Conference is focused on that country's long-term rebuilding. The summit comes as Russia launched another attack for the third straight night. Dominic Velitis has more.
The primary target of this latest attack was the capital, Kyiv. Ukrainian officials say Russia launched 18 missiles and around 400 drones at the city in the early hours of this morning. At least 2 people were killed and 16 others injured. 25-year-old Karina Wolf managed to escape her home just before it was hit. Just a moment after I had run away, I turned back and saw that my apartment was gone, she says. This is terror. It's happening every night while people are sleeping and most people are in their apartments, in their beds. How to protect the country's airspace will likely be on the agenda of this year's Ukraine Recovery Conference, which opened this morning in Rome. President Volodymyr Zelensky used his time at the podium to condemn Russia's latest aerial attack.
Ukrainians now face attacks by hundreds of these drones every single night. And this is pure terrorism.
As Ukrainians deal with the aftermath of another Russian aerial bombardment, President Volodymyr Zelensky is using today's conference to plead for a greater use of Russian frozen assets to protect Ukraine now and help rebuild its war-ravaged economy in future. Dominic Velitis for CBC News, Riga, Latvia.
In Gaza, blasts from Israeli airstrikes this morning. The military says it was targeting Hamas militants who emerged from tunnels to attack Israeli soldiers. The violence goes on as ceasefire talks continue in Qatar. Negotiators say there is no breakthrough, but U.S. President Donald Trump says he is hopeful a deal will be struck in the next week or so. A new report on improving safety at British Columbia's public events is laying out several recommendations. It was commissioned after an alleged attack on a Vancouver Filipino street festival in April. As Katie DeRosa reports, not all of the recommendations are being well received.
It's one of the darkest days for Vancouverites.
BC Community Safety Minister Terry Young says 10 weeks after a car rammed into a crowd at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival in April, the community is still reeling. 11 people died and dozens were injured. BC's Premier commissioned a report to look into how to prevent similar tragedies. The report includes 6 recommendations for improving safety at large events, including a province-wide hub for safety planning and provincial funding for enhanced security. Joey Kwan organizes Vancouver's Chinatown Festival, which is expected to attract thousands this weekend.
These 6 crucial points for entrance the festival.
She welcomes the recommendations, but says beefing up security is expensive. CBC News asked Young how soon that provincial funding will be available.
It's a good question. It's hard to really predict what's coming out.
The report did not look into any security lapses at the Lapu Lapu Festival itself, since its author, retired Justice Christopher Hinkson, says that's the subject of an ongoing criminal matter. BC Conservative public safety critic Eleanor Sturko says the report offers only Band-Aid solutions.
We seem to be in this pattern of always trying to fortify society. So, for example, putting extra bollards in place at things like festivals, which would be important, but never addressing the underlying issue, which is mental illness.
The accused in this case, Adam Kaiji Lo, was under the care of a mental health team at the time. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
Alberta's education minister is expected to release an update today on the development of new provincial rules for school library books. In May, Dimitrios Nicolaides announced he had new standards and they were being developed. His office received complaints regarding 4 specific books. They're all coming-of-age graphic novels in school libraries in Edmonton and Calgary. Nicolaides says the books contain inappropriate sexual content, drug and alcohol use. Residents of Kerrville, Texas are finding ways to support one another as recovery efforts continue.
You restore every heart.
Crowds gathered in a high school football stadium to sing and pray. Residents held an evening prayer service for the victims of last week's floods. Kerrville was devastated. There are now more than 120 confirmed deaths from the flash floods. At least 170 others are still missing. Donald Trump says his 50% tariff on all copper entering the United States will go into effect on August 1st. The U.S. president confirmed the date on social media late last night. The CBC Sam Sampson is on this story for us from Washington. And Sam, what more is Trump saying?
Well, Trump says the decision was made after a robust national security assessment, and that may be referring to a Section 232 investigation, which is meant to determine if imports are threatening to impair national security in the U.S. Trump has already imposed tariffs under Section 232 on steel, aluminum, and autos. A copper tariff would be another blow to Canada, because according to federal data, Canada sold about half of its exported $9.3 billion worth of copper to the U.S. in 2023. Now, most of Canada's copper comes from BC, but that province says it sells mostly to Asian countries, leaving other provinces that produce copper, like Quebec, to potentially be hardest hit. Canada's Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, says everyone is keeping a close watch on these tariffs, but Ottawa would not make a direct statement on copper until they see an executive order from Trump.
We will let the Prime Minister do the negotiation, supported, of course, by our negotiator-in-chief back in Washington, Kirsten Holman, and we will not negotiate in public.
There are other tariffs causing major rifts, Sam. Tell us about Brazil.
Yes, Donald Trump is slapping a 50% tariff on Brazil for its treatment of former President Jair Bolsonaro. Now, Bolsonaro is facing trial for attempting a coup after he lost the most recent election. And Trump calls these proceedings a witch hunt and that the tariffs are needed to, quote, rectify the grave injustices of the current regime. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because Trump late last month called a corruption trial against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a witch hunt and called for the trial to be cancelled. Days later, upcoming hearings were cancelled, the courts accepting a classified request from Netanyahu on diplomatic and security grounds. Brazil's president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, says his country will hit back with reciprocal tariffs and that the trial against Bolsonaro is the responsibility of Brazil.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
The CBC Sam Sampson reporting from Washington. Dundas, Ontario's Caribou, one of the favorites to make the Polaris Music Prize shortlist. It will be announced later today. Caribou's latest album, Honey, is one of the 40 on the long list. Caribou's no stranger to the Polaris Prize. His album, Andorra, won in 2008. That is the latest from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Magandang umaga, good morning, Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Coming up in the program, we're going to look at ways to take your fitness routine outside this summer and why skipping the gym might actually leave you feeling better. More on that. Also, CBC is set to launch Disability Life. It is a new online portal for those in the Canadian disability community to find stories for them and by them. We'll speak with CBC disability columnist Luke Williams about how the project was born and the reasons it's needed. First, though, award-winning Manitoba singer and songwriter William Prince released a new single ahead of a new album. We'll hear from him about what it was like making the new record and hear the song as well. Coming up next here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 990 in Gimli, 89.3 FM here in Winnipeg. And let's head to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. And Heather Wells joining us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, new human-caused fires have sprung up within the past few days along Island Lake in the northeast part of the province. Dwayne Chornaby lives in Garden Hill First Nation. Out-of-control flames are threatening the south side of that community. Meanwhile, the town of Snow Lake has once again issued a mandatory evacuation order. People are again being told they have to be out of town. The deadline is noon today. A hotly debated plan to redesign the intersection of Highways 1 and 5 near Carberry has been scrapped. The province abandoning the R-cut design after backlash from community members. We'll hear from the Premier coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. I am Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa this morning. Leif Larson is our studio director. Hello to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream and as well on CBC Television. Brad Lillies is our streaming producer. And Abby Ediemi is our technician, following the commute and following the weather as well. Which one you want to talk about first?
Good morning to you, Faith. Let's talk about the smoke. Parts of the province will be waking up to smoke this morning. We have smoke affecting the air in some part of the southern part of the province and tracking it all the way up north. Hence, we have various warnings today. We have air quality warnings in place for parts of the Interlake region. For example, we also have Parkland, the Parkland covered in that air quality warning, tracking it all the way down to Flin Flon towards Churchill. The smoke is going to be making visibility poor and also affecting breathing in some of those regions, especially vulnerable groups. Now, talking about Thompson, we also have severe thunderstorm watch in effect for that part. There's going to be a risk of large hail and strong winds, plus heavy rain coming towards that region, so you need to take care. Now, conditions in Winnipeg, 23 degrees. It's clear outside. The day is going to start sunny, but the clouds will build this afternoon. We do have a chance of showers and possible thunderstorms later. It's going to get hot and humid. We see temperatures climbing close to 33 degrees, and with the humidity factored in, it will be feeling close to 39, 40 in most regions. Most regions down south already seeing 20 degrees right now, warming up to 32. While up north, we are seeing 18 and 19 degrees up there. Shallow fog in Thompson at this time, and light rain falling in Churchill. So that smoke and the rain and the thunderstorm that will be coming our way is something we need to take into consideration today. Winnipeg at 23 right now, clear outside. If you're outside the city limits, you might be noticing shallow fog in that area. So you want to take care, look out for wildlife if they're crossing. You see anything in traffic at this time, give us a call, 788-3205.
14 minutes after 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 100.9 FM in Thompson. William Prince is back with a new single. It's called On Rolls the Wheel, the first taste of an upcoming album set for release this fall. William Prince spoke with the CBC's Chloe Friesen from the Saskatchewan Jazz Fest in Saskatoon.
Hi, Chloe. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you doing? How's Saskatoon?
Oh, Saskatoon's wonderful. Just finished a nice stroll through town. It sounds about as warm as Brandon.
Okay.
It feels really good. Everybody's in good spirits.
Lovely. And before we get to this new single, because I do want to hear all about it, I just want to know about your summer. How's it been? Lots of touring on the schedule?
No, actually, I'm in my Jan Arden time right now. I'm just waiting until they need me. It's been wonderful. I bought my first home in Winnipeg, and we've been settling in over the spring.
Congratulations.
And taking care of our new dog, and I'm just, I'm a chauffeur. I'm a chauffeur for all the sports when I'm home. I just take my son to all his things, and I've been loving having time to work on the record and just reflect on it and build it up to what it is now. Yeah. So it's been really, really, really great. A handful of shows over the summer, but I'm getting married next month, and just kind of light plans around all that.
Well, congratulations. That is some excellent news. I want to talk about this new single, On Rolls the Wheel. Tell us about the new song.
Well, the new song just, talks about the ongoing rush of time through the cosmos. All of us are just navigating these independent paths. And, it started years ago, the origins of this song when I was touring, and my first ever home roots tour, I would have, my first stop on the run was Saskatoon. So it's really, really incredible that you come back to these places over time and your name is still on the wall of the venue you played, and then you play bigger venues, and then you come co-headline the Jazz Fest, and it's just, wow, I'm getting older, my family, everybody around us, it changes. Like, time just keeps rolling on and on. So you can't fight the wheel, so you might as well just hold on to it and keep going and embrace the journey all the way through.
And I've heard there's a pretty solid team of Manitoba musicians and producers that are helping you embrace this journey here, especially on this new single. Tell me about how it came together. Who was involved?
My band, some of Winnipeg, Brandon's finest. First off, the record produced by Liam Duncan, the incredible mind behind Boy Golden, another Manitoba staple that's just taken over. And, Liam is just so creative and a pleasure to be around, and our friendship has been growing over the years. So we went over to the No Fun Club. Rob Hill over there took care of us for a number of months, just, building this thing in pieces. And it was really, really special to have my band, Cody Owasiak and Stephen Arundel, John Mark Barron, Kieran Plasetka, everybody, my fiance, Alicia Grace, singing on the record, and engineered by Chris Ulrich and Austin Parahoniak. These are names that make up the Winnipeg music team.
Yeah, this is an all-star team.
These are our best players coming together, and I wanted to challenge the idea of that. If you can't write a song in Winnipeg, there's no reason going down to Nashville spending all your money. You gotta have the right support and team. And why not? Why not go to No Fun Club? Honestly, the greatest studio in Canada, if not North America. It's really, really, really special there. So, we got everything we need to make a hopefully world-renowned record right here in Winnipeg.
Oh, I'm so excited for it. October 17th is the date. Am I correct?
Yes, October 17th. Further from the Country, the new record. It's my meeting of past, present, and future. The beginning of this story was the Pegulas First Nation, as we've talked about over time, and reaching my destination of Winnipeg and growing in this community, being a part of it. That's such a huge thing to me. That's what I was always in search of. And now we've come so far, but just like the ever expanding realm of space, we have so much further to go. And it's really looking to the future with this record and taking these stories and experiences even further along the road than Winnipeg itself. We're going everywhere with this.
Now, I know it's been about 2 years since your last album, Stand in the Joy, and that album was kind of just that. It was a chance to be really present in that feeling of joy for you. And for a lot of people, I think for everyone who listened to it, they got to experience that feeling. So am I hearing that this album sounds like you're looking to the future a little bit?
Definitely. It's still echoing a lot of the sentiments about being present and experiencing joy in the experience of this life. Look at all the great things we just talked about that I only dreamt about at a time. The music allowing me to provide a home for my family and this upcoming wedding that I'm so thrilled about, and just everything in my life is looking into the future. That's such a privilege, to have so much to look forward to. And I really just want to acknowledge that. So I'm still standing in the joy, but this time I'm not afraid, because I'm so much further along the line than where some of these stories, stories of dealing with growing up and just really struggling again. I can look back at these things and they don't break me like they used to. They don't break me down the same way. I'm stronger and more thankful and happier than ever, to be living my life these days. And so it's nice to look back at those things and not panic, not be upset and broken down by them. This is the grief, losing family and growing up and changing, and just, how the world treats you in this different place of life. So I'm always just trying to offer perspective of where I'm at with the people that know me the best.
I'm sure listeners would be mad if I didn't ask when's the next hometown show.
Well, we're, with a new record comes the big victory lap that is Canada. I get treated so well everywhere, and we go out to the UK. I'm heading there right away in September, and then we'll go into the fall with some stuff throughout the States. I got a few festivals, and then we're definitely eyeing up Canada for the spring, and Winnipeg is going to have a very special presentation of this record. That's what I'll say for now.
Lovely, Kay. Looking forward to it. William, thank you for spending some time with us here on Up to Speed.
Oh, thank you, Chloe. Happy to be here.
They sent me out into the land of living skies. Now I hope I can make it back alive. 'Cause my tires ain't paid for, all depends on the take home. Wire back the loot to make it right. The road is long, but my thoughts, they run longer into the quiet of the night. And I wake up lonely, this place where no one knows me. Drive to another the next day. Then a brand new chapter, born the day after the last of the miles towards my grave. And I've been here before, and I'll be here again. On rolls the wheel, on rolls the wheel.
Manitoba's own William Prince with his new single. It's called On Rolls the Wheels.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's news app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
23 minutes after 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. Well, the gym isn't the only place to break a sweat, especially in the summer. With longer days and warmer weather like today, you could ditch the treadmill for the trail or swap the weight room for your neighborhood playground. Fitness expert and author Amanda Thebe joining us now to talk about ways to rethink our routine and maybe take our workouts outside. Joining us from Toronto. Good morning. Hello. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Faith. Thanks for having me.
I love this idea. It's a good reminder that you can actually switch up your workout routines. What would you say are some of the fun and at the same time effective outdoor alternatives to the traditional gym and especially during these warmer months?
A lot of people don't consider that you can exercise outside of a gym, right? But you're right. Just start by getting outside and head to the playgrounds and the trails where you can run, walk, hike and play like we used to as kids. I mean, you go try hanging off those monkey bars. It isn't easy at all. But, Canada has some really great areas that we can take advantage of. All of those bodies of water, outdoor swimming pools. And if swimming's not for you, maybe you could try paddleboarding or kayaking, right? Another thing I like to recommend to people is, getting into the garage and dusting off your bike, pumping up the tires and just go exploring your surroundings. Or alternatively, why not jump on the pickleball phenomena?
It's a big thing. I know here in Winnipeg, it is continuing to get larger and larger. It's surprising because there are folks who might have forgotten that the outside is a place to work out, but it not feel like it's a workout. How do you get your mindset into that, where maybe you trick your brain from this is not a workout and we're just having fun outside, but it actually is really a workout?
Well, I personally, as a personal trainer and coach, always lead with, if you're going to exercise, it has to be something you enjoy, right? And I know that we have all of these rules that we have to do strength training and we have to do cardiovascular exercise, but if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to repeat it, right? So my first entry level to people is find something that you like, that you can do on repeat. And what's going to happen is you're going to then feel energized, capable, and curious, and you're probably going to want to try new things. So don't overthink this. Just start doing something that you like.
Last night was the very first time that I got to participate in our workplace slow pitch team. And it was the first time that I've ever played baseball. I actually hit the ball, and I had forgotten how competitive I was and ran really, really fast. And I remember getting home last night.
Run fast.
It run fast. It was quite fun. And I remember thinking last night, I actually feel pretty good. For people who don't have structured things,
Yes.
are doing things like that good low-key ways of getting outdoor fun that still offers real benefits?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you nailed it when you said you got to run fast. Like, it's like playtime again, right? And then you felt good afterwards. And so just to touch on that, you know, the combination of physical exercise, being outside and nature, sunlight, releases endorphins and neurotransmitters, things like dopamine and serotonin that do enhance your mood, that do give you reward and pleasure, you know, all the good stuff, and can conversely reduce our stress levels. So those feelings that you had are real and very important, right? And so remember that when you're going to exercise. And then from a low-key entry point, I'm a huge fan, Faith, of fitness snacking. It's a really nice way of snacking, right? So
Okay.
if you don't have 45 minutes, if you're sort of quite time poor, if you're busy, purposeful movement for, say, 10 or 15 minutes can add real life benefits. We have data to show that. And so that's a really good entry point, or just a little win for the day that you can give yourself. And then other things that I like to recommend from like a low-key standpoint are things like, consider how you get to work or go into your point of like location. Maybe you can ditch the car and walk there, or cycle, and just take advantage of your surroundings, you know, take the stairs more. All of these little small things totally add up over time.
On a day like today for Winnipeg, we're expecting a
I
high
like
of
that.
32 with the humidex.
Oh.
It might feel like 39. What do you recommend to people who are like, it's just too hot to go outside?
Yeah. And that's a real thing, right? So, and actually the heat with the humidity make it unbearable, right? And so one of the things I like to recommend, and I lived in Texas during the summer, so I know what that feels like,
Yeah.
is get up early, right? I mean, you're up early for work, but like, it's a lot easier to get up in the summer when the sun gets up with you. So, or work out towards the end of the day when it starts to cool down a little bit. But starting off your day with a really, like a walk or a strength training workout can be a really positive way to start the day off well. And then another thing is obviously finding somewhere that's air conditioning, but we're trying to get people outside. But maybe look to go somewhere where there is relief to the heat, maybe where there is a body of water. For example, I learned to swim age 50, so I've been doing that for a few years now. And I joined a local swim team in Lake Ontario. And, you know, that's something I never thought I would do. And it's one of those things, like you said, that makes me feel good, makes me feel capable. So there are ways to keep cool. One of the things I might say, though, is if you are exercising outside, Faith, is to really pay attention to hydration. Don't get dehydrated. Use your thirst as a cue. You know, so if you're thirsty, it means you need hydration.
It's a very, very good reminder indeed. Amanda, that's all the time we have. Thank you for this, and take care.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. I could talk to it forever with you. Bye-bye, Faith.
So
Take
nice
care.
to chat with you. Amanda Thebe, fitness expert and author. She is in Toronto. Lots to come here on Information Radio after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. It's a warm start to Thursday, 23 degrees right now. It's going to be another hot, humid day. A high of 32, the humidex 39, and there's a good chance we may see a late-day thunderstorm in Winnipeg. Manitoba's war against wildfires has spread to Garden Hill First Nation. The community on Island Lake in the northeast part of the province is dealing with a pair of new human-caused fires. Dwayne Chornaby posted videos over the past few days of water bombers attacking the flames. He says only the south side of town has been threatened so far, but that could all change with a shift in the wind.
We live in the north, and all these houses that we're situated around are just within feet of trees, so it doesn't take much to accumulate, a house on fire, one house to another, right? So you have to take precaution and set yourself up. I know there's a lot of people getting some sprinkler stuff sent up and getting it in place just in case.
The town of Snow Lake, meanwhile, has issued a mandatory evacuation order. People once again are being told they have to leave, and they have to be out by noon today. Manitoba has shut down parts of another provincial park over the worsening wildfire threat. The southern portion of Aladin Park was closed yesterday. It's a wilderness area including the Blood Vein and Gammon River corridors and Aikens Lake. Garrett Fash owns and operates Wild Loon Adventure Company. He was in the area recently hoping to organize a canoe trip next month and is not surprised the province decided to have that part of the park shut down.
Just seeing how dry it is up there, it's crazy. I feel like, you're walking around at a fireplace just waiting for that match to come in and light everything up.
A number of other parks in the eastern part of the province were already closed, including Wallace Lake and South Aladin. Portions of Whiteshell, Nopaming, and Baker's Narrows provincial parks are also closed. Well, as northern fire evacuees arrive in Brandon, advocates there warn of increased risks of sexual exploitation. Geraldine Gruzczyk at the Empowerment Project at Mama Wichita Center says displaced people, along with young people who are aging out of care, women and Indigenous people, are the top targets for traffickers. That means communities need to be alert and work together to keep everyone safe.
If you see something, do something. It doesn't matter if you think that it might be something or I see, but I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. Report it. Report it. Trust your guts.
Advocates say Western Manitoba needs more resources. This week, Mama Wichita Center's Empowerment Project was in Brandon, teaching sexual exploitation and trafficking prevention and intervention. After vocal opposition, a controversial move to improve safety on the Trans-Canada near Carberry is being nixed. The province says it will not go ahead with the R-cut design at the intersection of the Number 1 and Highway 5. A crash between a bus and semi at that intersection killed 17 seniors 2 years ago. Premier Wab Kinew says he heard loud and clear from the community the design being considered didn't work for them.
We just want to get it right, given the terrible tragedy that happened here, and make sure that people have that confidence that, not just that their government's listening to them, but that they're going to feel safe when they use this intersection in the future.
People in the Carberry area have said they would like to see an overpass built at that intersection of 1 and 5. Kinew says it is an option the province is considering. There is a new development in the investigation into last month's attack of an 8-year-old girl in Quadville, Ontario. Police say a 17-year-old boy is now in custody charged with attempted murder and sexual assault with a weapon. The arrest comes after police had told the community they suspected the girl had been the victim of an animal attack. The girl was reported missing June 24th and was found the following day with life-threatening injuries. In the days that followed, the community was warned to keep children under close watch. Ontario Provincial Police have a town hall scheduled for Saturday. The federal government's trying to attract more scientists to Canada. Industry Minister Melanie Joly says with the U.S. making major cuts to universities, Canada's happy to welcome more scientists and engineers.
I want you to think about Canada being the premier destination for your work. We want you to choose Canada because, you know what? We're a stable and trustworthy environment. A very democratic country.
The Trump administration is cutting half of its $9 billion funding to the U.S. National Science Foundation, a move that will affect thousands of scientists. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7, and you can find more Manitoba news as always at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells joining us from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Magandang umaga, good morning Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 990 AM in Gimli 89.3 FM here in Winnipeg. Lots to come in this half hour of the program. We'll hear more from your CBC National Business Desk. We'll also hear more about Disability Life. It is an online portal for those in the Canadian disability community to find stories for them and by them. We'll hear details of that later this half hour. Hello to the folks watching us on CBC Television and our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Brad Lillies is our streaming producer. Leif Larson, our studio director today. And Abby Adiemi is our technician, following both the weather, which is going to be hot, and the commute as well, which can be hot if you get stuck somewhere. Good morning, Abby.
Good morning, Faith. Trust me, it's going to be humid, local smoke, showers, and thunderstorms possible in many areas. We may even see tiny hails in Thompson today. Air quality warning in effect for parts of the Interlake region, the Parkland region, tracking it into Flin Flon up towards Thompson, with smoke in the air causing poor visibility, and it also impacting the breathing of a lot of people there. So I'd advise you take it easy. Also, we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Thompson and nearby areas, with the storms along this cold front could bring golf ball size hails, so you might want to take care up there. Strong winds would come with that, and we have heavy rains in forecast. This storm could damage buildings and even bring trees down. So if you're driving in the Thompson region, you might want to prepare and take care accordingly. Now, conditions in all the regions in the Red River Valley region at this time. Winnipeg, we're seeing 23 degrees. Cloudy outside, though the sun already cracking through those cloudy conditions. Then we'll see a sunny start. It's going to turn to a mix of sun and clouds as you get into the day. There's a chance of thunderstorms later this afternoon. Winds will be coming from the south, and then it's going to get light from the southwest later. We'll see highs near 32 degrees, but with the humidity factored in, it may feel close to 41 in the southern part of the province today, so you want to take care. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, Modern, Winkler, Alton, and Morris, 23 degrees, warming close to 30 degrees. The Westman region, we're seeing Brandon and surrounding areas around 20 degrees at this time. Cloudy skies, expecting a mix of sun and clouds. There's a small chance of showers this morning. Smoke may move into the region this afternoon, and be prepared. It's going to be a hot one. We'll see temperatures for Brandon get close to 31 degrees, and with the humidity, it's going to feel hotter than that. The Parkland region, we're seeing smoke. It's spread across the region. Special air quality statements in effect, 20 degrees at this time, and we're seeing misty conditions. That would stay with you for most of the day. You see a mix of sun and clouds. Also, chance of showers this morning, and highs would warm up close to 29. With the humidity, it's going to feel like 32, around 34 in some areas in that region. Now, tracking conditions in the Interlake region, we're looking at smoke also impacting Gimli and the nearby area. We're tracking it all the way to Arburg and even towards Ashen and Fisher River. We're looking at 22 degrees at this time. We'll see sunny conditions in that area, then a mix of sun and clouds. There's a small chance of showers and thunderstorms to come in the afternoon. Light winds from the south, high around 30 degrees. Up north, the Par, Flin Flon, Thompson, the Par this time, smoke lingers with special air quality statements also in effect, 17 degrees. Right now, we're seeing some sunny conditions in that area. We'll see a transition to a mix of sun and clouds later, high around 25, with light winds coming from the northwest. Thompson is at 17. We still have that shallow fog and smoke impacting the area, and that part of the region is where we're watching this morning, because we have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect, which will be bringing thunderstorms to the area. We're going to see highs near 23 degrees today. Up north, similar conditions. We're seeing smoke impacting Churchill, 18 degrees at this time. Cloudy start, a small chance of showers and possible thunderstorms also to come with that, and then a mix of sun and clouds later in the day, high around 25. But Winnipeg at this time, we're looking at temperatures around 23 degrees.
Yeah, it's hot. It will be humid and hot today for sure.
For sure.
If you have any issues on the roads as well, the phone number to call?
Yeah, if you see anything in traffic at this time, 788-3205.
3093. 204-788-3093.
3093 for sure.
It's hard to remember. There are lots of phone numbers, aren't there? We're at 20 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio, and you can see that sun shining, starting to peek out there here in downtown Winnipeg. Phil Dumont joining us now with the business report. Hello, Phil.
Hi, Faith.
Not shiny for Canada's big banks, because there is this new report suggesting that they're selling people the wrong investments. What gives here?
Yeah, this is the latest in the string of reports critical of the sales tactics of Canada's large banks. This one released this week by the Ontario Securities Commission and the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization. But when the OSC releases a report, it tends to get attention across the country. A number of things are looked at, but the one I'll pick on is 24% of advisors sometimes recommend products for clients that aren't appropriate for their needs. So it's 24%, 75% don't, but that's, you're looking at it that way. What I mean by that, risky, not appropriate investments. Think of a retiree trying to, maintain their nugget of money. You don't want to be in, let's say, risky options. That'd be an investment that could become worthless after a certain date. So it's that kind of a thing you don't want to get pushed into that sometimes the bank advisors might be promoting. One reason is the advisors are under pressure to meet sales goals. Not a surprise, they are salespeople, but they might not take as much care in giving recommendations than otherwise would be the case. I think back to my parents' era. If you went into your bank and they suggested something, like your doctor, you generally did it because they're supposed to know. The OSC reports the latest to gripe about how banks sell investment products to their customers. 2024 survey of salespeople at mutual funds with the wings of the big banks found that their performance was ranked according to a scorecard system, which in turn was tied to selling the bank's products. Makes some sense, but 40% said their scorecards intended to influence what investments they flogged to their clients. It's a problem, Faith, because back when banks were allowed to start in selling investment mutual funds back in 87, that area, critics said the relaxation of these rules could lead to the banks pushing their own investments rather than what was best for their customers. These later reports indicate that might be happening, at least in some cases. Doubly concerning because back in 2021, most Canadian banks stopped selling competing investments. Before that, you get a bit of a smorgasbord, kind of like go across the street and have a better burger there, that kind of thing. They don't do that anymore. The OSC report didn't contain policy recommendations, but has a second review looking at the sales practices at banks.
Right. I was out for my one of my daily walks, and noticed a lot of Amazon Prime delivery vehicles.
Yep.
Looks like online sales are up 10% on this year's Amazon Prime Day. Why might that be a bad thing?
Because they jumped a lot higher last year. Tuesday marked the beginning of Amazon Prime Days, you're right. That's when you can get big deals on a wide variety of products. And in recent years, Walmart, Target, Best Buy, other retailers have launched their own versions of the Amazon event. According to Adobe Analytics, which tracks online sales, customers spent $7.9 billion on Amazon on Tuesday. That's up 9.9% versus the first Prime Day in 2024. The problem is you go back a year, and the first Prime Day sales were up 41%. Versus 2023. So this year's increase, only 1/4 of the bump last year. It's the latest signal, and this is where I'm going with this, that Americans might be zippering their wallets. January to March, U.S. consumer spending rose 1.2%. That was versus a 4% jump in the fourth quarter of last year. And a lot of this year's spending was likely trying to get ahead of all those tariffs out of Washington. Worse, American retail sales shrank in May almost 1% versus May 2024, and the mood's darkening among Americans. The University of Michigan's index found that consumer sentiment was almost 20% lower in June versus December. Some of these, you look at the slowing consumer spending, and it's one reason why some governors at the U.S. Federal Reserve want to cut interest rates sooner rather than later this year.
The markets have the numbers this morning so far.
Right now, they're up in Europe. Mining stocks forcing the FTSE, the UK market, up to a record level, up more than 1%. Germany, France, positive territory. Good day in China. Hong Kong, Shanghai, up 0.5% each. Oil down 47 cents, $67.91 a barrel. Gold's up $17, $3,338 an ounce. Canadian dollar up about 1/10 cent, trading at 73.12 cents U.S.
Happy Baby Friday.
Thanks, Faith.
See you tomorrow. Phil Dumont from your CBC National Business Desk. 15 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Don't get confused. It is Thursday morning, just to be clear. I'm Faith Wendell in for Marcy Marcusa. Algerian-Canadian multi-instrumentalist, music producer, and DJ Aladin Kufi says his songs are both optimistic and devastating. You can hear that dichotomy in his latest album named Studies in a Dying Time. Dying Love, that is. He's put out a new single this year. This one's called All the Same.
So tired of this nightmare. Go for a walk, get your head clear. It's all the same at the end of the day. I know in this situation, it's only time that I'm wasting. If you love me, say I love you. When did this become such a headache? So much worse than heartbreak. It's always the same between you and I can't make a decision. Somewhere I lost my vision of what I want. Do you want? I used to walk with precision. And when you speak, I listen. Every word, like it's your last. Shrug it off. Hear my name through the speakers. Ring it out through the bleachers. Against all odds, I follow through. Take me home. Drive me insane. I'll take rosé or champagne. It's all the same at the end of the night.
That was Aladin Kufi with his song All the Same.
It's an honor to have you at the White House.
The stories that matter.
The opportunity is in the partnership.
As they happen.
There are some places that are never for sale.
And what they mean to you.
But never say never. Never say never.
For news you can trust, stay with CBC News.
12 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM here in Winnipeg and in Brandon, 97.9 FM. Lots to come here on the program. Stay tuned. First, though, July is Disability Pride Month right across the country. It is a time to reflect and talk about issues that affect the deaf and disability communities. Also, a chance to challenge us all, media included, to do more to provide more accommodations for folks if needed. Here at CBC, we are set to launch a new web portal to share stories and opportunities with deaf and disabled Canadians. To tell us more about disability life, we're joined by CBC disability columnist Luke Williams, joining us from Hamilton. Good morning, Luke.
Hi, Faith. Glad to be with you again.
Nice to have you here as well. Tell us more about this new web portal and how it came to be.
Yeah, so CBC Disability Life all starts with a disabled artist, activist, and advocate in Toronto named Adam Colquhoun. He's been a fan of CBC for well over 20 years now. Faith, like many of us 90s kids, he grew up on CBC kid shows at the time. But being a disabled person, he was also interested in a pretty revolutionary CBC show at the time called Disability Network, or DNet. It ran up until 97, and when that show ended and over the years, Adam grew upset with how hard it was to find disability content on CBC and cbc.ca. Adam described to me that he had a dream while falling asleep to a CBC show that's very close to my heart because it's one that I've worked on for nearly a decade.
Basically, I made the complaint a few times.
over the years, and the reason why I made those complaints is one of the things I actually do is I fall asleep listening to As It Happens. And when I listen to As It Happens at night, that is usually when there was always the PSA plug for Black in Canada and Indigenous in Canada. And when I would hear those plugs, I would think that as a person with a disability, I'm part of a representative. I'm part of a represented population that doesn't feel like I'm actually seen.
As you heard there, Faith, Adam wrote into CBC's audience relations department a number of times, and that ended up becoming the origins of this new Disability Life web portal. Adam told me that he wants something reminiscent of BBC's Ouch Project, which is a web portal that's been running for a few years now, inspired by that network's disability podcast of the same name. And it's come to feature a number of resources as well as countless content from across Britain's public broadcaster.
So we heard about Adam's dreams for something better. What response did he get from CBC, Luke?
Rest assured, Faith, those complaints that Adam had did not go unheard. They made it to the desk of Karen Clout, who handles content accessibility matters here at CBC. She then consulted with Adam and others across the country in the deaf and disabled communities, and worked with a number of our content creation and web development teams here at CBC to create something, like Adam says, that is for disability and is like being Black in Canada or CBC Indigenous.
We really started looking at how we present some of our content and found that we could do a better job if we had a dedicated space. We do get tens of thousands of audience relations comments every year. And we know that if, even just a handful of viewers feel a certain way, there's probably many, many more.
Like Karen says there, Faith, the hope is that Disability Life will be a landing pad without hassle for those in the deaf and disabled communities, a place to highlight stories pertaining to them.
Take us through this web portal, Disability Life. How does it actually work?
Yeah, I don't want to confuse you too much or get too inside baseball, Faith. So I'll say that it uses a number of the web development tools we use every day here at CBC. One of them has become quite a backbone of accessible web design. That's metadata. So basically what CBC Disability Life will do is use keywords or metadata to look for stories and content with key terms and help a user navigate more quickly and efficiently. Karen Tiveron is the project lead on CBC Disability Life. I had the chance to speak with them, and they told me about how users with a CBC.ca account will have access to all manner of CBC content, and it'll be constantly evolving and changing, but there will also be a number of personalization features tied to accessibility, the metadata tags being a big one, things like the Paralympics, which are coming up, elections that always seem to be happening. You'll be able to curate and personalize your feed.
So it essentially curates and share, it will curate and share stories, but are there other ways it's going to help deaf and disabled Canadians?
Faith, we here at CBC know that there is a vast network of deaf and disabled creators out there doing things. Here at CBC, we've started a number of disability-focused opportunities to help them, things like the Access CBC Creator Fund, the CAPE Intern Placement Program to help people get in the door. These programs, they have a history of feeling siloed, and there was a time when Sean Toggood, who's the creator of You're My Hero, a sitcom produced through CBC Studios, can remember when they weren't even there at all. When I spoke to Sean, he hopes that CBC Disability Life will change things for creators like himself.
I think what it does to help people who are creators is it shows them that, it is possible, the possibility of it even being a thing wasn't there for me. So I was like, oh, I guess I gotta go do it myself. So just the idea that someone can look at this website and look at the CBC, that alone is gonna shed a lot of light for a lot of people.
We know that the networks of deaf and disabled creators are out there, Faith, and we hope that CBC Disability Life will be a new way for them to connect with us and make it so that creators like Sean, as he says there, don't have to do it alone.
Here's the big sticking point, though. The site was supposed to be out at the end of June, and we're in July. It's been delayed, clearly. What's the timeline now?
You're absolutely right, Faith. It has been delayed. We wanted it out at the end of June to coincide with National Accessibilities Week. Unfortunately, this is a pretty ambitious set of tools with lots of teams working on it. Some stuff just didn't. It broke, and we need to fix that. So we give you the best space we can. As you say, the launch is planned for sometime this month. We have no set date. It is a perfect time because it is Disability Pride Month, so all eyes are on us. Adam joked with me when I spoke with him that it's typical of CBC to ask for others' time with quick turnarounds, but then delay and ask for more times ourselves. But he also did say that he feels we do a lot of great journalism and content creation surrounding disability, and that when CBC Disability Life is available, it is going to be that website he dreamed of. So stay tuned, Faith.
Will do indeed. Luke, thanks for this and take good care.
Thanks as always, Faith.
That is Luke Williams, CBC disability columnist, joining us from Hamilton, Ontario. We're at 3 minutes before 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Let's head to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. And Heather Wells joining us with a look at news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's war against wildfires has spread to Garden Hill First Nation. That community on Island Lake in the northeast part of Manitoba is dealing with a pair of new human-caused fires. As well, the town of Snow Lake has now issued a mandatory evacuation order. People there have to be out by noon today. And a hotly debated plan to redesign the intersection of Highways 1 and 5 near Carberry has been scrapped. The province is abandoning the R-cut design after backlash from community members. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells joining us from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. At 2 minutes before the top of the hour, goodbye to the folks watching us on CBC television, but you can continue to watch on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Brad Lillies is our streaming producer. Leif Larson, our studio director today, Abby Adiemi on the controls. I am Faith Fundal in for Marcy Marcusa. That thunderstorm warning, severe thunderstorm warning that was up for Poplar River has now been cancelled, but the smoke remains. Air quality advisories and warnings continue for many parts of the listening region as well. We'll give you a full look at your forecast coming up on the program. We'll tell you about the commute as well. So far, no issues to tell you about, but if you see anything, 204-788-3093, 204-788-3093. In our next half hour, why Hollywood loves to name drop Winnipeg. We're going to hear more about that and why we love hearing about it. Coming up next here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Stay tuned. World Report is standing by.
Today on The Current.
The Mounties allege the men sought to take over land by force near Quebec City.
I'm Megan Williams. 3 years ago, a report found a growing number of members of the Canadian military were part of extremist groups. Now, 2 active members are facing terrorism-related charges. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. Ontario Provincial Police have charged a teenager in connection with an attack on a child. An 8-year-old girl had been missing for hours last month. She was found with life-threatening injuries. It happened in the rural community of Quadville, west of Ottawa. As Nicole Williams reports, police initially had a different explanation.
For the last 2 weeks, police have told the community that they suspected this little girl had been attacked by an animal after she had gone missing after a day of playing with friends. Now they have charged a teenage male, 17 years old, with attempted murder and sexual assault using a weapon on a person under 16 years old. This is a very shocking turn of events because police have only ever focused their investigation on an animal attack. But that did include forensic testing. And the results of that now showed there was no animal DNA to be found in the little girl's wounds. For the last 2 weeks, a lot of people have been living in fear because police have actively warned people to keep their children inside or under close watch. And there's been lots of questions about why they need to do that because there's been no information on what kind of animal this could have been. It looks like they will get some answers at a town hall on Saturday when that's hosted by Ontario Provincial Police. And we do have an update on the little girl. A community member was able to see her, says she's doing extremely well. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
It has been another night of relentless Russian aerial attacks in Ukraine. Kiev's air defense system intercepts incoming drones and missiles. The Ukrainian capital was the main target of the overnight attacks. At least 2 people were killed and 16 others injured. President Volodymyr Zelensky referred to the attack during the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome.
Ukrainians now face attacks by hundreds of these drones every single night. And this is pure terrorism. And this is exactly what Putin wants for our people to suffer, and for homes, schools, for life itself to be destroyed everywhere, not just near the front lines.
The Rome summit is a meeting of European leaders to plan for Ukraine's long-term recovery. Donald Trump is sounding optimistic about a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
We're getting very close to a deal. I don't know if it's secret or not secret, but it doesn't matter to me. Secret's fine if it gets us to where we want to be.
The U.S. president says talks in Qatar are going well despite no breakthrough, but without a deal in place, the fighting in Gaza has not stopped. Sasha Petrusik has more from Jerusalem.
Sirens blared in Tel Aviv this morning as Israel says it intercepted a missile fired by Houthi militants in Yemen. Israeli airstrikes targeted Gaza City. Houses hit for the second day in a row. Renad Abu Amsha lost her husband and her brother. The people closest to my heart are gone, she says. We're tired of being used as pawns for negotiations. Those talks continued in Doha, with Hamas militants and Israel negotiating through Qatari and U.S. mediators. Both sides seem open to a 60-day ceasefire in exchange for about half the remaining hostages being released. But other obstacles remain, including Hamas's demand for Israeli troops to withdraw and end the war. U.S. President Donald Trump says negotiations could wrap up this week or next.
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind.
Leaders from Hamas and Israel also say they're optimistic, but with big disagreements still to be resolved and fighting continuing, no one is predicting an imminent breakthrough. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Construction begins in Quebec and in Finland on a new icebreaker for the Canadian Coast Guard. The ship is being built under a new agreement between Helsinki, Ottawa, and Washington. Production of icebreakers is ramping up at a time when a warming climate is making Arctic security a more pressing issue. Briar Stewart has the story.
At the Helsinki shipyard in Finland, crews work on repairing 2 large icebreakers parked in a dry dock. Next month here, work will begin on a different ship, the Polar Max, which will be built for the Canadian Coast Guard by teams in Finland and in Quebec.
We have been now designing the vessel and we will start the production here in August, early August.
Kim Salmi is CEO of Helsinki Shipyard. Its number one customer used to be Russia, but Western sanctions changed that. Now the company, which has been acquired by Canada-based Davy Shipbuilding, is getting ready for an influx of new customers.
I would see that there is, of course, the global situation and the kind of a race on the polar and Arctic areas.
NATO members are looking to spend billions on icebreakers to counter a growing interest in the Arctic by Russia and China.
The threat in the Arctic is security-based. It's also about an economic rivalry, and it's also about climate change.
Finland's President Alexander Stubb.
Russia has over 40 icebreakers, and we need to move fast. I think the alliance needs north of 40 icebreakers for itself.
In addition to the Polar Max, another Canadian icebreaker will be built in Vancouver. It's estimated that the cost to acquire both of these ships will be well over $8 billion. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
U.S. President Donald Trump says his proposed 50% tariff on copper will come into effect August 1st. He wrote on social media the decision was made following a robust national security assessment and promises that the U.S. will build a dominant copper industry. Canada is a major exporter of copper to the U.S. Federal data shows Canada exported more than $9 billion worth of copper and copper-based products in 2023. The majority of that went to the U.S. as well as China and Japan. Some mining companies say there is some concern about the tariffs, but will monitor the situation. An Ottawa man is fighting to get in on a Tim Hortons class action lawsuit. He and thousands of others were big winners in the company's Roll Up the Rim contest, only to be told later it was all a mistake. But the class action is only open to residents of Quebec. Gabrielle Houston has the details.
And to be honest, I'm there 2 times a day, even 3 times a day.
Michel Leveille is a loyal Tim Hortons customer. He plays Roll Up the Rim every year. But last year, he won big. A boat and trailer worth $64,000.
It's hard to explain in a sense, because you're shaking the joy, you're all happy, it's gonna happen.
Except it was a mistake, Tim Hortons says. A computer error led thousands of customers to get the message. Joey Zukran's Montreal law firm brought a class action lawsuit forward, arguing Tim Hortons owes its customers the prize it promised or the cash value.
That is a classic example of a large corporation thinking that they're above the law, thinking that they have to have no integrity.
A judge ruled the suit could go forward, but only for Quebec residents. That's because the province has stronger regulations around consumer protection. Being an Ottawa resident, Leveille says Tim Hortons should be held accountable to all its Canadian customers.
It's a big mistake. It's probably going to be a big costly mistake for them, but we all do mistakes. We all pay the consequences.
He's reached out to lawyers in Ontario, but only one has shown interest. He's also trying to reach out to other customers who are affected so they can band together. And despite all the legal issues,
I didn't boycott them. I still go there. You know what I mean? But it's frustrating. It's really sad.
CBC reached out to Tim Hortons for comment, but they declined. Gabrielle Houston, CBC News, Ottawa.
We'll find out later today which Canadian musicians will make the short list for this year's Polaris Music Prize. Dozens of artists are on the long list, including this Montrealer.
I was a storm in a teacup, thickening the water steeped in my anger, and you claim to be the one to understand. Don't you understand?
Kaya Cater's Strange Medicine is one of the 40 albums in contention. That list will be narrowed down to 10 today. The Grenadian-Canadian songwriter also plays the banjo. The album features guest appearances by blues great Taj Mahal and also fellow Montrealer Americana artist Alison Russell. This is the first time Kaya Cater has made a list for the Polaris Prize. The winner also gets $50,000, enough to catapult a career. The Polaris Prize will be awarded at a ceremony at Toronto's Massey Hall this September. That's World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
The tale of the good boy seduced by the witch.
15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Coming up on the program today, this week the College of Physicians and Surgeons confirmed it is looking into concerns raised about a West Winnipeg medical clinic, and it's also committed to doing a better job of handling complaints. We'll hear from the Assistant Registrar of Complaints and Investigations with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Manitoba coming up in this hour. Also coming up, why Hollywood loves to name drop Winnipeg and why we love to hear it. We'll have that conversation coming up in this hour of the program as well. First, though, a family... We'll do it the other way around. We'll hear about that next. We'll also hear about a family from Gimli selected to compete on Family Feud Canada. The 5 members heading to Toronto next month, but we'll check in with their team captain to hear how they're preparing. To your CBC Winnipeg local news desk now, and Heather Wells joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, it is a busy morning for people in Snow Lake. They are packing up under an order to be out of town by noon today. The northern community issued a mandatory evacuation order yesterday. People are asked to get in touch with family or friends to see if they can stay with them if possible, or to head to Winnipeg and report to the Leela Soccer Complex if they need a place to stay. The worsening wildfire situation is prompting the province to shut down part of another provincial park. The southern portion of Adakaki Park was closed yesterday. Garrett Fash owns and operates Wild Loon Adventure Company. He says conditions in Adakaki are so dry that cutting off access is the right move. He says what's primarily peat moss and swamp is now just cracked dirt, primed for a fast-moving fire. We'll hear more from him in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Abby Adiemi is following the commute and the impending hot weather / you might already be feeling it.
Yeah, it's already humid outside. It's going to be really a hot one across the southern part of the province. Smoke impacting the north and air quality statements in effect for much of the province. Right now, Winnipeg, we are at 24 degrees. It's going to be a sunny day. We warm up to 32. The humidity across the southern part of the province will feel close to 40 degrees today. So you want to take care. Anything in traffic, let us know. 788-3093.
Coming up to 13 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. As you've been hearing on your CBC Winnipeg News, an out-of-control wildfire burns near Garden Hill. It is about 450 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. Pictures from the community show flames above the treetops and billowing columns of smoke. Dwayne Tornaby lives there. He spoke to the CBC's Dave Baxter.
Well, we got a fire sitting in the south side of Garden Hill there, but I think the water bombers got it under control right now. But hopefully it won't spike up, but the winds are supposed to pick up tonight too again, so who knows, right?
So is it? Can you see it? Is it close to where you are? Because it sounds like you can see the smoke and everything, eh?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's close to town. Like it's right. I think if I'm not mistaken, it's probably right up at the back of some of the areas there for sure.
Okay.
I haven't been down at that site, but just from the pictures alone, it looks really tight and close. Yeah.
So it feels like it's getting closer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but the wind is kind of pushing from the south, so if it changes from the east, I think it could cause a lot more problems. So, which would push it right directly right into the community. But I think in some parts it is in the part of the community as well. So.
Oh, okay. Well, so what's the community like? Like, there's different areas of that community. So there's one area the fire is really close to right now.
Correct. Yes, that's the south side. We call it. Yeah, south end.
Have you talked to other people that are worried about this, that are starting to make plans?
There'll always be people worried for sure. I mean, the thing is, you can't predict how the wind's going to go and how fast it's going to move, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you got to take precaution, and you got to, when it's getting that close, you move people out. I guess you have to do what you have to do. You can't be assuming that it isn't going to come, and then all of a sudden it turns and it comes straight for us, and it's too late, right? So you have to, for sure take serious precaution and make sure that people are in a safe area.
Do you have somewhere, like if there's an evacuation, are you concerned about that? Is there a place you can go where your family can go? Or?
I would be more concerned about the elders and people with COPD and stuff that can't take the smoke in as well. I mean, but I mean, smoke or not, flames will get you, so, but at the end of the day is I'm sure the Garden Hill First Nations people are already acting on that quite fast. So I'm sure they got something happening already, you know.
And how's the smoke? Is the air quality bad?
The air quality is, it is pretty smoky here, but I don't know if it's actually coming from this fire typically, because we're getting a south wind, and I think we're getting the smoke from southern Manitoba more than the smoke is blowing towards the south, eh? So, but it's the air quality is pretty thick here today again, yeah.
Dwayne Turneby lives near Garden Hill. He was speaking with the CBC's Dave Baxter. Coming up to 16 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Now, what do Lil Wayne, Rosie O'Donnell, and Jeopardy all have in common? Well, from rap songs to comedy shows, these days it seems Hollywood can't get enough of Winnipeg. Take a listen. We will take a listen later. But first, we're going to have that conversation because mentions of Winnipeg, or we'll hear all of those later. I think we have it now. We're going to try it. Take a listen here.
Blow a pound like I'm Jenny Craig. I'm cold as Winnipeg.
I'll take that's honorific for 400.
In Canada, his or her worship is for people with this government job, like Scott Gillingham of Winnipeg and Surrey, BC's Brenda Locke.
I'm Miranda.
Hi, I'm Mary.
Oh, hi, Mary.
Hi.
Where are you visiting from?
Winnipeg.
Oh.
Well, that's a lie, really. It's a small town outside of Winnipeg, Dunatar, but I just wanted to impress you.
The mention of Winnipeg has been popping up on many TV shows recently, and nothing gets a Winnipegger talking like a Winnipeg mention, of course. So why does Hollywood love to mention, to name drop us? Jacqueline McLeod-Rogers is a pop culture expert, professor at the University of Winnipeg's Rhetoric, Writing and Communications Department, and every year in one of her classes, she attempts to answer that very question. Jackie joins us now by Zoom. Welcome to the program. Hello.
Good morning, Faith. Nice to be here.
It's nice to have you as well. How do you react whenever you hear Winnipeg mentioned while watching anything or seeing or hearing anything?
Well, I react, I think, much like many Winnipeggers. There's that odd sense of pride because it's nice to have something unusual like that happen, to have big or international media pick us up. On the other hand, I mean, the three references you made are slightly different. I think the reference, the mention of Mayor Gillingham on Jeopardy was just a wholly nice thing, where he got a mention that was kind of flattering. The other mentions tend to be a little more, not troubling, but we're kind of the brunt of put downs or jokes. So I think we like it, but we feel a bit restless or maybe a bit irritated that Winnipeg has sort of crept in to get a bit of a slap down when it gets mentioned. I mean, it's funny, we have a sense of humor, but it's easy to recognize that we're not being showcased as the big important city like Miranda's New York, let's say.
Right, and it's fascinating because someone once said to me, "You're now a Manitoban / a Winnipegger," because I can say not nice things about Winnipeg, and as soon as anyone else does, I get quite I'd use the word upset, targetedly upset.
That's the thing. We had in my last class a couple of representatives from Tourism Winnipeg in conversation with the students, and we agreed, as is often seen in a lot of songs and art or books, there is this kind of love-hate. We can say what's not right, or we can say where the trouble is, but we don't really like other people putting it out that way as well. So there's this kind of defensive-ness, I guess, about Winnipeg. But it's really, really strong because it's not necessarily a one way or the other. It's sort of a charged ambivalence or ambiguity. There's this love and there's this hate. And when we look at all the great pieces of, I guess, popular culture, but we see Winnipeg in art and, say, films or songs, that doubleness, in many of those pieces comes right to the fore, that love and hate, that disappointment and excitement. Even themes about going and staying. There's often that push-pull when we talk about ourselves.
Right. And so why do you think that is then? Why do you think even though we know that it might be an underhanded slap, like under the table kind of slap, why do you think we love hearing our city mentioned?
Well, it's media we all follow. So it'd be kind of impossible, having that aspirational wish to be in the big lights. I think everybody's got a bit of that. But it's, when it comes with, the lights are not necessarily limelights. They've got kind of a dark shadow to them. So it has we're realists, as our own branding say. We live in a place where we're made from what's real. So, it would be unlikely that we entirely take it as a celebration or, a real pat on the back. But nonetheless, when you live in these Midwestern cities and in Canada, it's kind of exciting to hear your city called out and mentioned. I mean, remember years back, The Simpsons had that, or do you remember? It was kind of well known.
Right, yeah.
The family was driving into Winnipeg, and they spot the welcome sign that says, according to the show, "We live in Winnipeg, what's your excuse?" And the fact that Winnipeggers could see the humor in it and love the fact that they're on The Simpsons, but none of us would be confused into thinking it was an entirely positive characterization. So, I mean, having a bit of a sense of humor is part of another theme that goes for Winnipeggers, being survivors, being kind of strong and real.
Right,
but,
and when what's your sense of how we see ourselves compared to how people from the outside might actually see us? Because whenever I have this conversation with someone not from Winnipeg, they kind of make the joke of "ha ha ha, don't get stabbed," right? But at the same time, as you sort of try to unpack it, I'll hear sort of a backpedaling of actually, no, here are the things I like about Winnipeg. Is the that darkness just part of the humor that breaks the ice, or is that actually the thing that people associate Winnipeg with?
I love that question. It's really difficult, and I think it's when we look at art and we look at the consistency in the portraits of Winnipeg, it really addresses that. None of them. I was listing them out, thinking about your question. Even if you start with something like Guy Madden's Our Winnipeg, the dark and the light are mixed. He presents it, this beautiful, lyrical yet gritty film where he was born and the things that are worth celebrating. At the same time, a place of limits, a place of restrictions, a place you have to leave. So definitely that heavy mix of emotions, and it carries on in other, I think in other pieces we've seen, more humorous, I guess, in that
right.
More recent piece. But I mean, we even saw, just to make a quick reference to it, when we opened Portage in Maine, and I know you did a lot of coverage about that event, which was by and large a really positive moment for Winnipeggers, a good change. But I thought it was sort of emblematic of this dark and light sense of selves or sensibility, that the song they chose to play in the background was Randy Bachman's Prairie Town. And I mean, is beautiful and lyrical, and it celebrates Winnipeg in a sense, but it's the song with the chorus, Portage of Maine 30 below, which they say several times. And the theme of that song is even about the kid who has to get out of Winnipeg in order to get ahead. So, again, there you have a moment where we're choosing to celebrate, but the theme or the song that's going to be the anthem for it has that kind of mixed message of it's a great place, and it's a great place you might have to leave, or it's a great place, yet its qualities are cold and daunting. So, yeah, the mixity always seems to come into the portraits in the top.
Jackie, yes or no, should we continue to expect and to be excited about Winnipeg mentions, whether it's tinged with shadows or not?
I think we could expect to continue. I think it's true that still the creatives who write some of the Hollywood stuff may either have come from here. There's certain, I think we all know people who've gone to Hollywood with their dreams and become writers, or they might have family who are still here. Winnipeg sort of sticks out as a colorful place. I remember in our class we were looking at, this was old now, but it was David Steinberg, and it was called David Steinberg's Winnipeg, and he was a comedian quite famous years ago, but would have built a kind of legacy. And he had pictures of him driving through the streets of Winnipeg and sort of checking out old home. Well, I wonder if there isn't still that kind of, a lot of creatives who are in Hollywood remember Winnipeg fondly.
And they always eventually come back, don't they, Jackie? That's always what I get to. That's all the time we have. I feel like we could talk about this for hours. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
I love the conversations. I'll get my students to take a go at some of this as well.
Would love that. All right, Jacqueline McLeod-Rogers, professor at the University of Winnipeg's Rhetoric, Writing and Communications Department. 26 minutes after 7 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Let's head to your CBC National Sports Desk. I got it right, Scott.
Well done. Well
Scott
done. You nailed it.
Yeah, let's start with soccer and a valiant effort by Valor FC.
Yeah, for sure. If it hadn't, Faith, been for a Vancouver Whitecaps goal in the final minute of regulation time last night, Valor might have made its way through to the semifinals of the Canadian Championships. Still, quite an accomplishment for the Winnipeg-based side, which plies its trade, of course, in the second-tier Canadian Premier League, keeping things as close as they did against one of the top sides in the top tier of Major League Soccer. Now, as I've mentioned before, Valor's entire payroll, Faith, is less than a single Vancouver player, striker Brian White's. And Whitecaps coach Jesper Sorensen tipped his cap, singular, to his opponents last night.
I think it's great. It's what cup football is about. I think cup football is... It's beautiful. You have these clashes where one team is supposed to win and be much better than the other, but we know in football that everything can happen. It's beautiful. I like it. We have to live up to expectations, and they can bring everything on the pitch and also maybe don't have the pressure upon them. So I think, I just think it's great.
For Valor last night, Javonte Lane had the goal in the 86th minute. That looked like it was going to set it into extra time, but to no avail. Still a nice run for Valor through to the quarterfinals, giving the Whitecaps all they could manage. Now they got to return to the Canadian Premier League, where they've lost 3 straight times, but hopefully some positive momentum with what took place last night, Faith. Here's a positive from the footy world. Canada's men's team, this news is just out from FIFA, now ranked 28th on the planet, higher than the Canadian men have ever been ranked before.
So there you go. He's right. Anything can happen, which includes a not as happy thing that happened recently to the Blue Jays.
Right. The White Sox halted their long winning streak yesterday, Faith, beating them 2-1. Still, Toronto's 10 victories in a row represent the second best run in franchise history. Manager John Schneider was asked what he learned from it.
What you take out of it is you start a new one on Friday. And the things that we have been doing, you just continue to do between pitching, offense, defense, bases. The guys, I've said it through this whole thing, there's a lot of sustainable stuff that will allow you to continue to win and be in ball games. Today just wasn't our best game.
So, Toronto tries to begin a new winning streak tomorrow, Faith, when they face the A's in Sacramento. One thing management might be looking at on this rare day off for them is whether it makes sense to trade for an ace. The Jays have a solid but unspectacular staff led by Kevin Gossman, Jose Barrios, and Chris Bassett. None of those guys could be considered a bona fide number one pitcher anymore. The last time the Jays looked this formidable, 10 years ago, they brought in David Price to fill that role. So who could they target this time? Freddie Peralta of the Brewers and Seth Lugo of the Royals are a couple of names to watch. One thing's for sure, though, Faith, Toronto's managed more wins before the All-Star break than ever before, and nobody's going to remember that if they don't win a playoff game for the first time in a decade. And just before I head off, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, good news all around for them. On the field, they held off a comeback attempt from Sioux Falls and won 7-6, and the Goldeyes had 4 players named to the upcoming All-Star game. A nice Wednesday for them.
Very nice Wednesday indeed. Scott, thank you.
You bet.
Scott Regehr, from your CBC National Sports Desk. I'm Faith Wondal in for Marcy Marcusa. Lots to come here on the program after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. What a warm start to the day. We're at 24 degrees right now. The high, a hot 32. It's going to be a muggy one again. Humidex at 39. There is a risk of a late day thunderstorm in Winnipeg today. Manitoba's war against wildfires has spread to Garden Hill First Nation. In a statement just released this morning, the community on Island Lake has issued a full-scale evacuation as an urgent measure, it says, for the safety of all residents. Garden Hill says a dangerous wildfire has now entered the community. The province's latest wildfire report says that fire is human-caused. Dwayne Chornaby lives in Garden Hill. He posted videos over the past few days of water bombers attacking the flames.
We live in the north, and all these houses that we're situated around are just within feet of trees, so it doesn't take much to accumulate, a house on fire, one house to another, right? So you have to take precaution and set yourself up. I know there's a lot of people getting some sprinkler stuff set up and getting it in place just in case.
As well, the town of Snow Lake has issued a mandatory evacuation order. People there have to be out by noon today. They're asked to get in touch with family or friends if possible for a place to stay, or head to Winnipeg and report to the Leela Soccer Complex if they need a place to stay. The worsening wildfire situation has prompted the province to shut down part of another provincial park. The southern portion of Atakaki Park was closed yesterday. That wilderness area includes the Bloodvein and Gammon River corridors and Aikens Lake. Garrett Fash owns and operates Wild Loon Adventure Company. He was planning to organize a canoe trip in that area next month, but says conditions are so dry, cutting off access is the right move.
You shouldn't be looking at an area that is primarily peat moss and swamp, and you're just seeing cracked dirt. It is primed for an explosion, a fast-moving fire.
A number of other parks in the eastern part of the province were already closed, including Wallace Lake and South Atakaki. Portions of Whiteshell, Nopaming, and Baker's Narrows provincial parks are also closed. There is a new development in the investigation into last month's attack on an 8-year-old girl in Quadville, Ontario. Police say a 17-year-old boy is now in custody, charged with attempted murder and sexual assault with a weapon. The arrest comes after police had told that Ontario community they suspected the girl had been the victim of an animal attack. She was reported missing June 24th and was found the following day with life-threatening injuries. But in the days that followed, the community was warned to keep children under close watch. Ontario Provincial Police are now planning a town hall for Saturday. It has been another night of relentless Russian aerial attacks on Ukraine. Air raid sirens around Kyiv as drones and missiles bombard the capital. At least 2 deaths have now been confirmed, with another 3 reported in other regions of the country. In total, it is believed the latest Russian assault involved at least 400 drones and 18 missiles. This as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is addressing the Ukraine Recovery Conference underway now in Rome.
All of us must keep up the pressure on Russia. All of us must keep working for defense so that we can bring a real ceasefire as soon as possible.
European government and business leaders are attending that conference. The agenda deals not only with the war, but with what Ukraine will need to recover once the war is over. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A hotly debated plan to redesign the intersection of Highways 1 and 5 near Carberry has been scrapped. The province has abandoned the R-cut design after a backlash from community members. That Trans-Canada intersection is where a bus crash with a semi killed 17 seniors 2 years ago. Carberry Mayor Ray Muirhead says the R-cut design would have been dangerous. He would like to see an overpass built there instead.
I know an overpass is the most expensive option, but
I can guarantee it's not going to get cheaper in time. So I think it's time to kind of bite the bullet, so to speak, and do it right the first time.
The province says an overpass is an option it is considering. It says their new approach to improving the intersection of Highways 1 and 5 will prioritize safety and meet local needs. Brandon service providers are getting more training to spot the signs of sexual exploitation and trafficking. However, advocates say Western Manitoba needs more resources. Lisa Noctor at the Brandon Gap Youth Outreach says exploited young people are often told they have to go to Winnipeg for help. She says it can be scary and isolating.
It's incredibly shameful that throughout our entire province, the only places that particularly because I work with youth, that youth are able to access services are all in Winnipeg. We have none anywhere else across the province.
Noctor teamed up with the Mama Wichita Center's Empower Men project to offer 2 training sessions this week. They want to teach people how to recognize red flags and act when they believe sexual exploitation is happening. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells joining us from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Magandang umaga, good morning Manitoba. Faith Fundal here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. This is Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 97.9 FM in Brandon, 990 on the AM dial in Gimli. And coming up in this half hour, we will hear from a family from Gimli selected to compete on Family Feud Canada. The members heading to Toronto next month, but we'll check in with their team lead to hear more about how they're preparing. Stay tuned for that conversation coming up. Abby Adiemi, following your commute and following the very hot weather conditions we're expecting today, good morning.
Good morning, Faith. Let's start with the smoke that I'm tracking from parts of the south. We're tracking it from parts of the Interlake region into the Parkland region and towards the northern part of the province this morning. Also, we have showers and possible thunderstorms in many areas later today. That air quality warning still remains in place for Dauphin, Flin Flon, and towards Thompson. Everyone should, I would advise you to limit outdoor time or avoid strenuous activities. If this smoke is impacting you, go inside. Winnipeg at this time, sunshine already outside. The clouds will build later. We do have a slight chance of showers or thunderstorms in the forecast. It's going to be a hot and humid one in the city. We will warm up to 32 degrees, but with the humidity factored in, it will feel like 39. That's similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region. Current temperatures around 22, 23 degrees, warming to 32 at this point. Brandon is at 19, partly cloudy, expecting a mix of sun and clouds, warming up to 30 degrees. The humidity is going to make it feel close to 40 degrees for that part of the province. And we have smoke in the air impacting some areas in Brandon this morning. Now, talking about Dauphin, where we have smoke in the air, we're expecting a mix of sun and clouds today. Temperatures around 19 degrees. It's sunny there, warming up to 29. Gimli's at 22. Sunny start also for that part of the province. Then we'll see the clouds roll in. We have chance of storms in the forecast later, warming up to 30 degrees. The powerful influence surrounding areas, we have smoke in the air, 17 degrees at this time. We will see a mix of sun and clouds. The smoke will be sticking around all day, light northwest winds, highs around 25. And Thompson is at 15. That's fog is still there and the smoky conditions still impacting the area. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds that would clear later. Breezy conditions from the northwest, highs 26. And then further north in Churchill, 19 degrees and smoky also there. Showers will be in the forecast for that part of the province. Then we'll see some clearing later, high 25. So it's going to be hot and humid in the south and then smoky and warm up north today. And later in the evening, some of the regions down south, as you can see on the map, would be seeing possible storms coming our way. Anything in traffic, let us know, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi are on the controls today. Leif Larson is our studio director, and Brad Lillies is our streaming producer. Thanks as well, and hello to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. We're at 21 minutes before 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And does your family have what it takes to compete for big money in a game show? Where one family from Gimli thinks it can. It is the Cumps, and recently selected to represent Manitoba on Family Feud Canada. The folks describe themselves as a multi-generational gang girl gang of aunties, cousins, and chaos. They plan to bring all of that chaos to Toronto when filming their episode next month. Brittany Eisfeld is the team captain, and Brittany joins us now. Welcome to the program. Hello.
Hello.
What did you think when you heard that this would be happening, that you got the call?
Completely shocked. Absolutely shocked. I kind of just applied as a fun little, like, why not? And never thought I would get a call back. And then we did. So we were really, really excited for that.
Were you a fan of Family Feud before you applied?
I've watched it a few times, but I'll be totally honest, I haven't watched as much as a lot of other people have. So now I'm familiarizing myself with the game.
Now you have to figure out how to win big, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, walk us through the application process. What was it like for you?
It was nice. It was easy, very straightforward. But I just kind of came across a post on Facebook and decided, why not apply? And I just randomly, the first family members that came to my mind, I threw on the application. Thank goodness they're all okay with actually up and leaving and going to Toronto to compete. But yeah, it was really nice, easy, and streamlined. So much so that I thought, well, this is too easy.
And it was because of a last-minute video that you put together that essentially helped you get that phone call, right?
Absolutely. I am probably the biggest lover of Gimli you'll ever meet. I'm born and raised there, family, the whole thing. And when I had the opportunity to make a video and kind of be able to really promote Gimli, I went to all of the main attractions, in front of the statue, in front of the world-renowned Crown Royal plant, in front of the frozen lake where we have our ice fishing village. So it was a lot of really niche things that I was able to kind of put in the background, and it grabbed the producer's attention.
Yeah,
they really said that they fell in love with Gimli, but really liked our family as well.
Oh, I love that. And speaking of family members, was it hard, or how hard was it to pick who would go?
Well, like in retro, when I did it, I just literally pulled whoever I could think of, like, really quickly. And then now that I'm thinking of it, it's like I probably could have, thought about it. I have a really large family, so there might be some people that are like, well, why am I not there? So it was just kind of random. And, so it was easy to pick, though, because it's my mom's side of the family who's been passed away for years and years. So I brought two of her sisters, her sister-in-law, and her niece. And it's a way for us to be able to experience a nice vacation and, have her kind of on our mind and compete for our family. So it's neat.
What'd you say to the people who were like, wait a minute, Brittany, why didn't you choose me?
I said I wasn't even thinking. I just literally threw anyone out there.
Did they accept it, that answer?
They did. My one auntie, who we had a meeting last night, so my other auntie who isn't coming came along, and she's married to my mom's brother. And I guess he had said at one point, can they use a different name? Because we can be a bit embarrassing.
Maybe that might be the superpower that your family has. Do you have a game plan?
We have a bit of a game plan, but like I didn't, because like I said, I'm not a huge watcher of the show. So we have to have a lineup, and I'm learning now that it's very important what that lineup is. So we played a few quiz rounds yesterday because I guess the first two people that go are just normal points. And then the third person is double points. The fourth person is triple points. And then we have to have two fast money people. So we were watching some episodes last night and trying to answer as quick as we could to kind of figure out who's good on the spot.
There is some math involved in that as well, right? We were talking earlier this hour of the program how whenever Winnipeg gets a mention anywhere, we all get excited, whether it is a positive mention or not. You get to represent Manitoba, but in particular, your hometown Gimli on a national scale. I mean, what does that mean for you?
It honestly means so much for me. Like I said, I am a huge lover of Gimli. I've been involved in volunteering and putting on events since the early age of 12 years old, and it's all been very Gimli focused. I actually even ran for local Gimli council to be able to be as involved as possible. Unfortunately, I didn't win, but maybe next time. But so for me, it's so much. It's so much more than just going and representing, Manitoba, or it's I have an Icelandic family who, the whole story, they came over on the boat. It's actually the 150th anniversary of New Iceland this year. So it's a really great year to be able to do this. I'm involved in the Icelandic Festival of Manitoba, helping put on a lot of the events. So it's nice to be able to just promote not only my culture, but as well as my family and the place that I love so much and call home.
Brittany, I love that we got to chat. I always love getting to talk to other people who love Gimli. Gimli is one of my favorite places here in Manitoba. So on the same page as you, good luck, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Goes and dying, everyone.
Brittany Eisfeld, team captain of the Kumps family from Gimli. Exactly 1 month from now, they'll be heading to Toronto, where they'll represent Manitoba on Family Feud Canada.
Rubik's, Jigsaw, Wordle? Hardly. Get ready, Canada. It's time for another edition of That's Puzzling. Host Pia Chattopadhyay competes against one familiar voice and one clever listener in a battle of brain games devised by puzzle master Peter Brown. That's Puzzling all summer long. Friday afternoon at 1:30 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
14 minutes before 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Faith Fundal. And we have some time for music now. Here is Sebastian Gaskin with Shadows.
I thought that I had known the pain, but not like the one you showed me. Not like the one you showed me. I wish that things had stayed the same, but not with the way it's going. Not with the way it's going. I've played it back 100 times. I've told myself 1,000 lies, but still inside it's you I find. I don't know how to change it. That memory burned into my head. I prayed for better things instead. I really wish you weren't dead, but I'll just carry on with the show. Don't you know I'm a falling domino, breathing in hope it helps, even though I know it won't. And they say these things take time. I don't need the storm and the rain on my face. I don't wanna fade away, burn me out till I'm gray. I'm a product of the pain and the shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. Shadows in my mind. I let myself fall to the floor more than a couple times now. More than a couple times now. I've walked 100 different lives. I've heard 1,000 different cries. I've tried my best to run and hide. I don't know how to change it. I've talked with God and told him lies. I've acted on my foolish pride. I swear I'm living out of spite. I'll just carry on with the show. Don't you know I'm a falling domino, breathing in hope it helps, even though I know it won't. And they say these things take time. I don't need the storm and the rain on my face.
That's Sebastian Gaskin with a tune called Shadows. It's off to his debut album, Love Child. Right, 11 minutes before 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. As you heard on Information Radio yesterday, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Manitoba confirms it's looking into concerns expressed about a Winnipeg physician, Dr. Christina Winogrodska, who works out of Birchwood Medical Clinic. This after a Winnipeg patient told the CBC that years ago she'd tried to complain about Dr. Winogrodska, only to change her mind after she was cautioned that she'd have a hard time finding a new doctor. Last month, the patient and a former employee of the clinic went to the college with new concerns about the physician. In a written response to CBC Manitoba, the college confirmed it is now, and I quote, engaged, unquote, with the clinic, but also revamping how it handles complaints. Dr. Guillaume Poliquin is the Assistant Registrar of Complaints and Investigations with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Manitoba. In that same written statement, he told CBC that, quote, we will be implementing changes that will enhance our process for reviewing concerns and complaints submitted about the care or conduct of physicians. Dr. Guillaume Poliquin joins us now by Zoom. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Poliquin, what changes are you implementing? How will things be different?
Sure. So maybe I'll take a step back first before answering that question and say complaints received from the public is one of the essential parts of our work. We are in need of hearing feedback from the public about experiences, both negative or positive. And that's how we are able to focus our work and bring about positive change. In terms of our new processes, we are fundamentally adding analysis at the front end of receiving a complaint. Historically, we would receive a complaint. Based on it, we would decide, what is our probable best mechanism for resolution and then send it down that path. And then the analysis would happen later. You can imagine that can at times be problematic because once you get into the details of a case, you can find out, the complaint was about the wrong doctor. It was about the wrong patient encounter, or, the concern that was brought forward, which sounded okay, it was actually really, really serious and we should have acted on this sooner. So by changing the way we do it with the institution of our analytics unit, which officially launched on Monday, we'll be doing that analysis upfront. That way we can pick out when we're seeing complaints that are really, really serious and act on them really quickly. Or when we identify that a complaint may actually be better suited to one of the other arms of the college, such as our quality improvement arm or our prescribing practices program arm, then they can be redirected to the appropriate tool so that we can get the resolution that is needed.
What was your sense of how many complaints fell within that idea of, all right, later on we realized that you may not have chosen the right pathway for a complaint? How many cases are you talking about that led you to this change?
So it's hard to quantify, to be honest, because these things, the complaint pattern that we get in any given year can be different. What I've been really trying to focus on is to get a sense of, are we reachable enough by the public? And so we've done some internal review, and it seems like a healthy number of complaints is about 15 to 30 per 100,000 Manitobans. And that helps to account for the fact our province is growing rapidly, and so we're seeing more complaints, and that's expected and that's healthy. When we have complaints that might exceed that, then there's clearly an issue that we need to focus on more carefully. We've never dropped below that rate, but if we had been, then probably our barriers to access were too high, and we should be looking at something different.
Right. I want to talk about one of the patients who complained again last month about Dr. Winogradska, who said that she received an email back from the college asking her to click on different links to submit a complaint, to formally submit a complaint. Why wouldn't an email complaint be enough to launch an investigation?
So it's a good question. We're sort of reviewing our complaint submission process through the portal. We do accept mailed complaints. We can be reached by phone and talk people through the complaint submission process. The issue sometimes is we also, depending on the complaint type, do need the patient's consent. Because this is personal health information. And so it is imperative for us to get a full documentation package. But we now have, as part of the analytics unit, one of the roles is to be proactive to reach out to patients and facilitate us getting all the information that we need.
And so to be clear, if someone emails a complaint, just because they may not have provided the expressed permission for that private information, it doesn't mean that the complaint process hasn't begun or that you're not looking at it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, so we would receive it, we would screen it, and then we would proactively reach out to try and get the full package of information that we need.
Okay. Take me through then how it'll work now, given your new system that launched on Monday, which includes the analysis part. Say I have some concerns about my general practitioner. How do I start? What do I do?
Sure. So we can be reached either through our website, through our email address or phone or mail. Once we receive that concern, it'll be screened, and then it'll come to me for initial review. If it's something that sounds, serious, like a boundary violation, then we essentially drop all we're doing and focus on that. If it's screened as sort of more standard, then there'll be reach out from one of our staff to talk through what are your concerns exactly, what are the documents that we need. And once that's all packaged together, then we'll decide which of our different mechanisms the complaint goes to and on what sort of urgency level.
There are a lot of things at play here. You may have patients who worry that they might lose their healthcare provider, or you may have other doctors or employees in a clinic who are too worried to report. What do you say to those groups of people?
So it's a really significant concern, and I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for people who feel that power imbalance. We do have a practice direction that states that no retaliation should come from submitting a complaint, and we do enforce that. There are some exceptions when the doctor-patient relationship can be terminated in response to a complaint, usually when the care is unsafe. But by and large, we will enforce that no retaliation should come forward.
And does that include coworkers as well who might be concerned about repercussions from reporting either a doctor or a coworker?
Yeah, so that's the other mechanism that we have. We have something that's called the registrar's referral mechanism, where the registrar steps in as a shield for the complainant and is able to sort of direct the complaint without the complainant having to be identified outside of a few very specific set of circumstances.
Dr. Poliquin, thank you for making time today, and take care.
Thank you.
That is Dr. Guillaume Poliquin, the Assistant Registrar of Complaints and Investigations with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Manitoba. As you heard, they recently started a new process or added a difference in the process they use for complaints that started this Monday. Let's head to your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Joining us now, Heather Wells. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, it is being called a full-scale evacuation in Garden Hill First Nation. In a statement just released this morning, the community in Island Lake says it's an urgent measure for the safety of all residents as a dangerous wildfire has entered that community. So we'll bring you the latest on that. And as well, the town of Snow Lake is now issuing a mandatory evacuation order. People there have to be out by noon today. They are asked to get in touch with family or friends if possible to stay with them, or to head to Winnipeg and report to the Leela Soccer Complex later today. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba. I'll be back with more coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells joining us from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. It's going to be hot today, hot and humid. There are also smoke warnings in effect, air quality warnings in effect for some of our listening regions. We'll get into it in our next half hour of the program. We'll also hear from Manitobans and Winnipeggers about what they think about how to deal with the sun and using sunscreen. We sent the CBC's Jim Agapito to speak to folks. You'll hear more from them coming up next year on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. By the way, we'll hear more as well about your commute. Stay tuned. World Report is standing by.
On Q.
Finn Wolfhard became a star at 12 for his role in Stranger Things.
How can I hate you? I don't even know you.
Now, as the show wraps, he's diving into something new and completely his own, his first solo album. We caught up with Finn in Vancouver to talk about music, creativity, and how Stranger Things changed everything.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Megan Williams. 3 years ago, a report found a growing number of members of the Canadian military were part of extremist groups. Now, 2 active members are facing terrorism-related charges. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Ontario Provincial Police have charged a teenager in connection with an attack on a child. An 8-year-old girl had been missing for hours last month. She was found with life-threatening injuries. It happened in the rural community of Quadville, west of Ottawa. As Nicole Williams reports, police initially had a different explanation.
For the last 2 weeks, police have told the community that they suspected this little girl had been attacked by an animal after she had gone missing after a day of playing with friends. Now they have charged a teenage male, 17 years old, with attempted murder and sexual assault using a weapon on a person under 16 years old. This is a very shocking turn of events because police have only ever focused their investigation on an animal attack. But that did include forensic testing. And the results of that now showed there was no animal DNA to be found in the little girl's wounds. For the last 2 weeks, a lot of people have been living in fear because police have actively warned people to keep their children inside or under close watch. And there's been lots of questions about why they need to do that because there's been no information on what kind of animal this could have been. It looks like they will get some answers at a town hall on Saturday when that's hosted by Ontario Provincial Police. And we do have an update on the little girl. A community member was able to see her, says she's doing extremely well. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
European and business leaders are meeting in Rome to talk about Ukraine. The Ukraine Recovery Conference is focused on that country's long-term rebuilding. The summit comes as Russia launched another attack for the 3rd straight night. Dominic Velitis has more.
The primary target of this latest attack was the capital, Kyiv. Ukrainian officials say Russia launched 18 missiles and around 400 drones at the city in the early hours of this morning. At least 2 people were killed and 16 others injured. 25-year-old Karina Wolf managed to escape her home just before it was hit. Just a moment after I had run away, I turned back and saw that my apartment was gone, she says. This is terror. It's happening every night while people are sleeping and most people are in their apartments, in their beds. How to protect the country's airspace will likely be on the agenda of this year's Ukraine Recovery Conference, which opened this morning in Rome. President Volodymyr Zelensky used his time at the podium to condemn Russia's latest aerial attack.
Ukrainians now face attacks by hundreds of these drones every single night. And this is pure terrorism.
As Ukrainians deal with the aftermath of another Russian aerial bombardment, President Volodymyr Zelensky is using today's conference to plead for a greater use of Russian frozen assets to protect Ukraine now and help rebuild its war-ravaged economy in future. Dominic Velitis for CBC News, Riga, Latvia.
Blasts from Israeli airstrikes in Gaza this morning. The military says it was targeting Hamas militants who emerged from tunnels to attack Israeli soldiers. The violence goes on as ceasefire talks continue in Qatar. Negotiators say there is no breakthrough, but U.S. President Donald Trump says he is hopeful a deal will be struck in the next week or so. A new report on improving safety at British Columbia's public events is laying out several recommendations. It was commissioned after an alleged attack on a Vancouver Filipino street festival in April. As Katie DeRosa reports, not all of the recommendations are being well received.
It's one of the darkest days for Vancouverites.
BC Community Safety Minister Terry Young says 10 weeks after a car rammed into a crowd at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival in April, the community is still reeling. 11 people died and dozens were injured. BC's Premier commissioned a report to look into how to prevent similar tragedies. The report includes 6 recommendations for improving safety at large events, including a province-wide hub for safety planning and provincial funding for enhanced security. Joey Kwan organizes Vancouver's Chinatown Festival, which is expected to attract thousands this weekend.
These 6 crucial points for entrance the festival.
She welcomes the recommendations, but says beefing up security is expensive. CBC News asked Young how soon that provincial funding will be available.
It's a good question. It's hard to really predict what's coming out.
The report did not look into any security lapses at the Lapu Lapu Festival itself, since its author, retired Justice Christopher Hinkson, says that's the subject of an ongoing criminal matter. BC Conservative public safety critic Eleanor Sturko says the report offers only Band-Aid solutions.
We seem to be in this pattern of always trying to fortify society. So, for example, putting extra bollards in place at things like festivals, which would be important, but never addressing the underlying issue, which is mental illness.
The accused in this case, Adam Kaiji Lo, was under the care of a mental health team at the time. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
You restore every heart.
Crowds gathered in a high school football stadium in Kerrville, Texas to sing and pray and support one another. Residents held an evening prayer service for the victims of last week's floods. Kerrville was devastated. There are now more than 120 confirmed deaths from the flash floods. At least 170 others are still missing. Donald Trump says his 50% tariff on all copper entering the United States will go into effect on August 1st. The U.S. president confirmed the date on social media late last night. The CBC's Sam Sampson is on this story for us from Washington. And Sam, what more is Trump saying?
Well, Trump says the decision was made after a robust national security assessment, and that may be referring to a Section 232 investigation, which is meant to determine if imports are threatening to impair national security in the U.S. Trump has already imposed tariffs under Section 232 on steel, aluminum, and autos. A copper tariff would be another blow to Canada. According to federal data, Canada sold about half of its exported $9.3 billion worth of copper to the U.S. in 2023. Now, most of Canada's copper comes from BC, but that province says it sells mostly to Asian countries, leaving other provinces that produce copper, like Quebec, to potentially be hardest hit. Canada's Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, says everyone is keeping a close watch on these tariffs, but Ottawa would not make a direct statement on copper until they see an executive order from Trump.
We will let the Prime Minister do the negotiation, supported, of course, by our negotiator-in-chief back in Washington, Kirsten Holman, and we will not negotiate in public.
There are other tariffs causing major rifts, Sam. Tell us about Brazil.
Yes, Donald Trump is slapping a 50% tariff on Brazil for its treatment of former President Jair Bolsonaro. Now, Bolsonaro is facing trial for attempting a coup after he lost the most recent election. And Trump calls these proceedings a witch hunt and that the tariffs are needed to, quote, rectify the grave injustices of the current regime. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because Trump late last month called a corruption trial against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a witch hunt and called for the trial to be canceled. Days later, upcoming hearings were canceled, the courts accepting a classified request from Netanyahu on diplomatic and security grounds. Brazil's president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, says his country will hit back with reciprocal tariffs and that the trial against Bolsonaro is the responsibility of Brazil.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
The CBC Sam Sampson reporting from Washington. Canadians seem to be resolute in avoiding travel to the U.S. Statistics Canada has just released its report for June on cross-border travel. It shows both air and road trips to the U.S. are down The decrease for flights is just over 22% from the same time last year. Road trips have declined just over 33% year over year. The drop appears to be linked in part to U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war on Canada and his musing about annexing Canada.
You'll always be my honey.
Dundas, Ontario's Caribou, one of the favorites to make the Polaris Music Prize shortlist. It will be announced later today. Caribou's latest album, Honey, is one of the 40 on the long list. Caribou is no stranger to the Polaris Prize. His album, Andorra, won in 2008. The Polaris Music Prize will be awarded at a concert and ceremony at Toronto's Massey Hall in September. That's World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Magandang umaga, good morning Manitoba. Faith Wendell here in Studio 15 at Portage and Spence. I'm in for Marcy Marcusa. This week and next, you're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, we all want that glowing skin in the summer, but how much tan is too much? Do you use enough sunscreen? There's been growing concern about the rising rates of melanoma in Canada, especially among young people. So we sent the CBC's Jim Agapito to speak to Winnipeggers about their thoughts on using sunscreen. We'll hear what you folks had to say. Coming up next here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1, 100.9 FM in Thompson, 89.3 FM here in Winnipeg, 990 AM in Gimli. Stay tuned. Good morning to Heather Wells joining us from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk.
Good morning. Well, it is a busy morning in Manitoba's north. People in Snow Lake are packing up under an order to be out by noon today. That northern town issuing a mandatory evacuation order yesterday. It is the second one in a month. And Garden Hill First Nation is now under a full-scale evacuation. In a statement just released this morning, the community in Island Lake says the province's says it's an urgent measure for all of the residents, a safety measure, it says. Garden Hill says a dangerous wildfire has now entered the community. Now, the province's latest wildfire report says that fire was human-caused. We're going to hear more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Good morning to the folks watching us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube stream. Brad Lillies is our streaming producer. Leif Larson, our studio director today, and Abby Ediemi, our technician, following the commute and the weather. And yeah, it's going to be hot and humid.
Yeah, hot and humid. But let's talk about the smoke that is impacting a lot of regions this morning. We're tracking it all the way up north, talking about from the Interlake region towards the Parkland region, and we're seeing it, the powerful influence, tracking it all the way to Thompson and Churchill, and also many areas could be seeing showers and thunderstorms later today. We have that air quality statement in place. It's impacting areas where we have the smoke in the air, so you need to take care if it's impacting your breathing. Winnipeg right now, 24, 25 degrees. We're seeing mostly cloudy conditions. We started the morning with some sunshine, but the clouds are already moving in. By this afternoon, more clouds will roll in. There's a good chance of showers later today. We could see thunderstorms or hear it roll by in the city, and it will be a hot and humid one in the city. I'm talking about highs getting close to 32, 33 in some areas, and the humidity will make it feel close to 40 degrees. The winds will be just a bit of breezy conditions from the south, and then it even becomes lighter as it shifts towards the southwest later in the afternoon. And then for tonight, the skies will stay mostly cloudy with slight chance of showers and possible thunderstorms continuing. And some smoke will be hanging around overnight. Temperatures will fall close to 17 degrees. Southern part of the province, the Red River, the Pembina Valley, the Interlake region, the Westman, we're looking at temperatures this morning sitting between 19 and 24 degrees. Also expecting a mix of sun and clouds and a small chance of showers or storms in most of these regions, warming close to 32 degrees. Up north, Thompson, Flin Flon, the Power, Churchill, we're seeing smoke as it continues to affect the air with warnings still in place. Temperatures at this time, we're looking at 16 in some areas, 17 and 19 in some areas. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds also, along with a chance of showers and thunderstorms. The winds will stay light and mild from the northwest. Highs for the region up north will only get close to 26 degrees. So, Faith, to sum it up, from the north, tracking it down south, we're going to see the province dealing with more like a mix of smoky conditions, some sunshine here and there, and possible storms later. Winnipeg, 24 right now, warming close to that. I know it says 32 degrees, but I like taking the humidity into consideration because we'll have a lot of people that will be doing that transition from one bus to another and waiting at the bus stop when it gets that humid.
Almost feels like you're like walking through a shower.
Exactly. Like
very much.
It's supposed to be breezy, but it's more like, warm hair smashing into your face. So you need to take care out there. And talking about commuters, if you see anything in traffic before we leave, give us a call, 788-3093, and look out for those construction zones along the St. Mary's and the perimeter, and of course the Abinoy-Jamaican Bridge crossing over from the southern part of the province coming towards the north.
Coming up to 16 minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. There is nothing like the warmth of the sun beaming down on you on a hot summer's day. But those rays can be harmful if you're not protecting your skin properly. According to Melanoma Canada, rates have tripled in the past 30 years. Now, to put that into context, 11,000 Canadians were diagnosed with cancer in 2024, up 17% from the previous year. And of those diagnosed, a rising number were young people. But a lot of young people still continue to skip the sunscreen. So how do Winnipeggers feel about sunscreen? We sent the CBC's Jim Agapito to Assiniboine Park to find out.
Stasa verrucas.
Do you use sunscreen or not?
I do. I want to protect my skin. Don't want to get skin cancer.
In the past 30 years, and it's rising amongst young people. So I'm wondering, what is the conversation like?
So I'm hoping everyone is wearing some sunscreen. I deliberately chose this spot with some shade. And I'm wearing SPF 60, so I'm hoping my friends here are also wearing some sunscreen. I'm a little bit older, so I want to wear sunscreen to protect my skin. In my 20s, I didn't really think of it that way. I wanted to get a tan, so I don't know. There's some young people here if you would like to ask them.
Donna Trin.
Okay, Donna, do you wear sunscreen?
I do. Same thing as Stasa said, I also don't want to get skin cancer, and to protect my skin, sunburns are not fun. I think there are a lot of people who are tanning, but they also do use sunscreen because sunscreen doesn't block your skin from getting darker. It just protects it from the harmful rays, so it doesn't cause sunburn.
Hi, what's your full name?
It's Riley Dodds.
Okay, do you wear sunscreen or not?
Yes, every day. I'm very fair and I burn very easily. I actually don't tan at all, so I would rather wear sunscreen than burn.
The rates of skin cancer tripled in the past 30 years and it's rising amongst young people. Is that concerning at all?
Oh, definitely. My doctor told me the last time I visited that one blistering sunburn in your youth increases your chances of skin cancer by like 80%. Don't quote me on that, but I don't want that, and I think the choices we make when we're young affect the rest of our life and all aspects of our health.
And do you think then, beauty standards, do you think that influences whether or not people want to use sunscreen or not?
I think way more people fake tan now, which is great. I would love to see more fake tanning and then still protecting our sun by wearing sunscreen.
Charisse Leclerc.
Okay, do you wear sunscreen or not?
Yes.
Okay, why do you choose to wear sunscreen?
To protect myself against the sun.
Skin cancer has been increasing over the past 30 years and amongst young people. Is that concerning at all?
Yes.
Okay, why is that concerning?
Because I have a lot of kids. I want better for the kids.
Okay, so I'm curious, what is the conversation like that you have with your kids? What do you tell them before they go out, especially on a day like this where it might be hot and there might be a lot of UV?
I just say sunscreen up, but also where's my sunscreen? I think my sunscreen's like a 15.
Okay.
A little hypocritical. Yeah. No, it gives you a shine.
Okay, let's look at the kind of sunscreen you have.
15 SPF. They wear kid stuff usually.
Okay, so do you think it's a little bit stronger or whatnot?
Yes,
okay.
children's stuff is way better.
That's a kid's one.
Is that what they wear?
Say 30, 50.
60.
60. So you wear 15 and your kids wear 60. Why the difference? I'm just curious.
I'm already damaged. I did a lot of, I've done a lot of tanning beds. I'm doomed no matter what, but
Okay.
I'm hoping for better for them.
Beauty standards, could have an impact on whether people use sunscreen or not. Do you think that has an influence on young people?
Completely, yeah, for sure.
Okay, and how so?
Me included.
Okay, how did that?
Everything looks good with the tan. I don't think I'm looking good right now.
Chelsea's sore.
I saw you pull out for your friend the 60 SPF sunscreen. Okay, is that what you're wearing today?
Well, I haven't. I have to apply.
Oh.
Yeah, I always wait like a little bit, get a little bit of vitamin D and then put it on so you don't burn. I have used also the zinc ones, and especially when they were little, I always use the zinc ones. They're just like really expensive.
You mentioned something interesting. You said you get the sun first and then you apply. Why do you wait to apply after?
Well, because there is benefit of getting like natural vitamin D under the skin, right, from the sun's rays, and so I always wait like the 15-20 minutes and then apply if I'm going to be out.
The rates of skin cancer are increasing with young people. How concerning is that?
Well, of course it's concerning. I also think though that would be a factor with climate change because the sun's rays have gotten stronger. There's less ozone and it's hotter climate, right, all the time. I think it's a multifaceted thing that would be happening with social media and stuff like that. If the influencers are talking about you should get a tan and whatnot, and then you see it and it looks nice, if that's what we think looks good, we're going to want to do that. So I think they're more influenced being online more. But when we were kids, we were working on oil. You know what I mean? It was not the thing where our parents were. Maybe we had 15 or 30. Nowadays, I don't know. There's more of self tanner and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's any better, but there is more of that. And I have friends who are I try to stay as pale as possible, so I put on tons of. So I don't know. It's whatever you think is beautiful, I guess.
The CBC's Jim Agapito speaking with Winnipeggers at Assiniboine Park, which gets us to this next thing, a perfect tune for a hot summer day. This is Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff and Summertime.
Drums, please.
Here it is, a groove slightly transformed. Just a bit of a break from the norm. Just a little something to break the monotony of all that hardcore dance that has gotten to be a little bit out of control. It's cool to dance, but what about a groove that soothes and moves romance? Give me a soft, subtle mix, and if it ain't broke, then don't try to fix it. And think of the summers of the past. Adjust the bass and let the Alpine blast. Pop in my CD and let me run a rhyme and put your car on cruise and lay back, cause it's summertime. Out in this sort of a buzz, but back then I didn't really know what it was. But now I see what happened is the way that people respond to summer madness. The weather is hot and girls are dressing less and checking out the fellas to tell them who's best. Riding around in your Jeep or your Benzos, or in your Nissan sitting on Lorenzo's. Back in Philly, we be out in the park. A place called the Plateau is where everybody go. Guys out hunting and girls doing likewise. Honking at the honey in front of you with the light eyes. She turn around to see what you beeping at. It's like the summer's a natural aphrodisiac. And with a pen and pad I compose this rhyme to hip you and to get you equipped for the summertime. Yet, hustle to the mall to get me a short set. Yeah, I got on sneaks, but I need a new pair, cause basketball courts in the summer got girls there. The temperature's about 88. Hop in the water plug, just for old time's sake. Break to your crib, change your clothes once more, cause you're invited to a barbecue to starting at 4. Sitting with your friends as y'all reminisce about the days growing up and the first person you kiss. And as I think back, makes me wonder how the smell from a grill can spark up nostalgia. All the kids playing out front, little boys messing around with the girls playing double dutch. While the DJ spinning a tune as the old folks dance at your family reunion. Then 6 o'clock rolls around. You just finished wiping your car down. It's time to cruise, so you go to the summertime hangout. It looks like a car show. Everybody come looking real fine, fresh from the barbershop and fly from the beauty salon. Every moment frontin' and maxin', chillin' in the car, they spend all day waxin', leaning to the side, but you can't speed through 2 miles an hour, so everybody sees you. There's an air of love and of happiness, and this is the Fresh Prince's new definition of summer madness.
That's the Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff with Summertime. We're at 25 and a half minutes after 8 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Now, you used to be able to get a lot of different shows and movies in one place like Netflix, but now prices are gone up, and what you might want to watch is spread out among many different streaming services. More from the CBC's Andrew Lamb.
So, do you subscribe to streaming services?
I do, yeah. Not like all of them, but like Crave is my main one.
How many do you have now?
I'd say I have Crave, Netflix, and like Apple TV.
I have Netflix, and that's it.
Signed up on about, I'd say, 3 services. We've been piggybacking on 4 other accounts for a while, but slowly that's dwindling.
I'm an adult and I pay for my own rent, groceries, and everything, but I still mooch off of friends and family for any kind of streaming service. My parents' Netflix, my boyfriend's Prime, my roommate's Disney Plus.
Yes, I have Netflix, I have Amazon, I have, Paramount, Disney, yeah, the whole shebang.
And how do you feel about how expensive they are?
It definitely adds up. Turns out probably to be about, for all of them, probably around $100 a month. So yeah, it gets expensive.
I think they're kind of crazy, actually. Like I find, especially the ones where you like pay for the base level package and you still get a bunch of ads. Like I feel like that's the reason you pay for streaming services, is to have ad-free content. So it is really irritating to like have like 5 mid-roll ads when you're paying for the content in the first place.
Definitely expensive when looked at as a package. I often reminisce about the days of satellite TV packages. I'm gonna sound old, but yeah, I mean, if you're looking to get a variety of things, you end up spending a whole whack of money every month, which turns into a real expense.
It used to be that you could get a lot of shows on one service,
right.
But now it seems like you kind of have to go to different services.
Yes, yeah, you have to have all of them if you want to have all the different content that everybody is watching. And the streaming services also have their own original content, which I mean, like, good for them, good job, but like, it's not accessible to people who don't have that specific streaming content.
I feel left out when everyone's watching Love Island on Prime and I can't watch it.
Netflix, for example, their most expensive plan is more than $20. If it went higher than that, is that something you'd be willing to pay for?
No, I mean, that's ridiculous. $20 a month, no, terrible.
If you compare it with prices of going to the movies nowadays, renting things, $20 isn't that bad for a month's service of a very wide range of shows.
No, absolutely not. And I think I've really procrastinated in getting back into piracy. 10 years ago, Netflix had such a selection, and now they just have what seems like a very curated little amount, and it's a worse product. It costs more, and I'm going to be pirating my stuff from now on, I think.
Would this make you think about owning more like of your own media, like DVDs and stuff?
Totally, and I actually do that. I have like a DVD player, and I also still have like our old family like VHS player, and I've started like, because my parents, they still have all of that stuff from when we were younger, so I've just started like accumulating it for myself. And I really like DVDs. I like CDs as well. Like, I'm kind of getting away from streaming platforms for music as well. Like, I really like that, the tactile media that you can like own and hold in your hand, because I'm really getting sick of like the subscription based consumption, because you don't own anything anymore. You're just subscribing to things, and it's not, you don't get any control over the content that you get to have.
The CBC's Andrew Lamb speaking with folks about how expensive TV and movie streaming services have become. Stay tuned. We'll give you a full look at your weather forecast for Winnipeg and the rest of the listening region. And we'll also tell you about how the commute is going so far. 204-788-3093. In the last few minutes that we have left here, if you have any issues or if you see any issues, give us a call. We'll let you know. Stay tuned, though. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is a warm start. 24 right now, mostly cloudy. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds through the day. A chance of a late day thunderstorm. Today's high, a hot 32. Humidex, 39. Manitoba's summer of wildfires is not letting up. Garden Hill First Nation has just this morning issued a full-scale evacuation. It says a dangerous wildfire has entered that community on Island Lake. And just minutes ago on the platform X, the federal public safety minister says Ottawa has just approved Manitoba's request for military support for Garden Hill First Nation. Dwayne Shornaby lives in Garden Hill. He says people there have been bracing for the worst.
You can't predict how the wind's going to go and how fast it's going to move. So when it's getting that close, you move people out, I guess. You know, you have to do what you have to do. You can't be assuming that it isn't going to come and then all of a sudden it turns and it comes straight for us and it's too late, right? So you have to take serious precaution and make sure that people are in a safe area.
Meanwhile, the town of Snow Lake has now issued a mandatory evacuation order. People there have to be out by noon today. They are asked to get in touch with family or friends if possible for a place to stay, or head to Winnipeg and report to the Leela Soccer Complex. The worsening wildfire situation has prompted the province to shut down part of another provincial park. The southern portion of Atakaki Park was closed yesterday. The wilderness area includes the Bloodvein and Gammon River corridors and Aikens Lake. Garrett Fash owns and operates Wild Loon Adventure Company. He was planning to organize a canoe trip in the area next month, but says conditions are so dry, cutting off access is the right move.
You shouldn't be looking at an area that is primarily peat moss and swamp, and you're just seeing cracked dirt. It is primed for an explosion, a fast-moving fire.
A number of other parks in the eastern part of Manitoba were already closed, including Wallace Lake and South Atakaki. Portions of Whiteshell, Nopaming, and Baker's Narrows provincial parks are also closed. Well, as Northern Fire evacuees arrive in Brandon, advocates warn of increased risk of sexual exploitation. Geraldine Gruzczyk at the Empowerment Project at Mama Wichita Center says displaced people, along with young people who are aging out of care, women and Indigenous people are top targets for traffickers. That means communities need to be alert and work together to keep everyone safe.
If you see something, do something. It doesn't matter if you think that it might be something, or I see, but I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. Report it. Report it. Trust your guts.
Advocates say Western Manitoba needs more resources. This week, Mama Wichita Center's Empowerment Project was in Brandon, teaching sexual exploitation and trafficking prevention and intervention. A hotly debated plan to redesign the intersection of Highways 1 and 5 near Carberry has been scrapped. The province has abandoned the R-cut design after a backlash from community members. The Trans-Canada intersection is where a crash between a bus and semi killed 17 seniors in 2023. Carberry Mayor Ray Muirhead says the R-cut design would have been dangerous. He would like to see an overpass built instead.
I know an overpass is the most expensive option, but I can guarantee it's not going to get cheaper in time. So I think it's time to kind of bite the bullet, so to speak, and do it right the first time.
The province says an overpass is an option it is considering. It says their new approach to improving the intersection will prioritize safety and meet local needs. Well, drivers in Vancouver will soon be forced to slow way down. City Council in Vancouver has voted unanimously to reduce the speed limit on local streets to 30 kilometers an hour, down from the provincially mandated 50. There will be phased introduction of the new limit on residential streets without a center line and with new signage installed in the first 25 neighborhood slow zones over the next 3 years. That is slow. I don't know. A little slow for me anyway. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Heather Wells from your CBC Winnipeg local news desk. Abby Ediemi back for a look at the weather and the commute. Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Faith. We're looking at smoky conditions hanging in the air from the south, tracking it all the way up north with showers and thunderstorm possible later in a lot of areas later today. And don't forget about that air quality warning in place for Dauphin, Flin Flon, tracking it all the way towards Thompson and Churchill. Smoke will definitely be making it hazy up there and harder to breathe, so you want to take care. Southern regions, we're seeing temperatures 19 to 24 at this time. A mix of sun and clouds will get today. Highs near 32, but the humidity later in the day will get close to 39, 40 degrees. While up north, we're seeing cooler temperatures and hazy, smoky skies, highs around at 26. But Winnipeg, we are at 24 degrees, heading to a high of 32 degrees. And tomorrow brings some cooler temperatures with more cloud cover.
Kind of feels like a Friday commute, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
true.
We didn't get as many phone calls.
Except a lot of people seems to have the hack now. You can just either avoid the areas where you have those constructions.
Yep. It's that time of year, right? That time. All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's Abby Ediemi, our studio control person. Technician. That's the word I'm looking for. Leif Larson was our studio director today, also the senior producer of audio. And a big thanks to the folks who helped put our show together today. Abby Ediemi, Chidi Akuma, Geneva Doso, Chloe Friesen, our producer Donna Carrero as well, and our current affairs reporter Jim Capito. Our YouTube producer, streaming producer is Brad Lillies, and our producer of the current affairs unit here is Nelly Gonzalez. Thanks very much for joining us today. Mag-ingat po kayo and take good care. Stay tuned. We'll have more on Radio Noon at 12 o'clock today, and of course, the regular call-in segment after the 12:30 news. Stay tuned. The Current is next.